Yo, what's up, fam? How's everybody doing today? Happy, what's today? Monday. Man, the days really do flow together. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mastermind Academy. We're back with week six. Yeah, we are on episode 11 and 12 of each of these for this week, and episode 5 for pipelines. Sorry, I was not able to do pipelines this weekend. Some things have kind of come up on possibly on Saturday. There's actually a few more events that are going to be coming up on Saturday, so we may have to figure out the structure around pipelines and finishing out pipelines properly. I will figure out what to do with that this week. So I'm sorry about that, but we are fine for Horizons. We are fine for Decoded for now, so no issues here. I hope everyone's doing great. How's everyone doing? What's up? Who was first tonight? Rollers, welcome. Happy Monday. Greetings. Uncle Bill, how you doing? MG, good to see you. Welcome back. The Dev, all the familiar faces, all the familiar names. What's up, YGBSM? What's up, IJ Be That Boy? How you doing tonight, man? Let's see who else we got on here. We got Lance Maker, welcome. What's up, Diarrhea? What's up, Hat Matter? How you doing? Paul Blart, Mauled Cop, welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. I feel like I saw you. I feel like I used to see you all the time, and I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. What's up, Sharky? What's up, bro? Sharky, you almost missed out. Me and Doug almost won we almost won a doubles. Came in second place, super close. The only reason we didn't win is I forgot that I had a self-revive kit. You almost missed out on, well, you missed out on that, but we didn't win, so you're all good. Appreciate the 2 months. YGBSM, thank you so much for the support. Sean, good day, good evening, wherever you are. I'm assuming it's just about evening everywhere. You know, we're at 7 p.m. here on the East Coast. Hope everyone's doing good. Hope everyone is again taking care of themselves. A lot going on. Hope everyone's kind of relaxed. We are gonna chill out tonight, have a little bit of fun tonight. Lurking 24/7, dope, that's what's up. I'm cool with the lurkers. We were playing Call of Duty. We're trying to get good. We're trying to get good at Call of Duty and Valorant. Trying to pick one with a very limited amount of time to play. Like yesterday, you know, I was working on a lot of things. I said, hey, I'm gonna play today, but I'm only gonna play one game. Actually, we played 2 games. We played the one that we did terrible on, and then we did play the one where we almost won, and we did terrible in that game too. We started out the game dying immediately. We died as soon as we landed, you know, but we call ourselves, we claim to be the Goo Kings, the kings of the Gulag. So we won that. We were able to come back and fight and come in second place, but unfortunately we didn't win. But tonight we are going to be learning a little bit about ElasticBeanstalk for one, which is going to be a lab, but it's going to be a very boring lab. And I knew it was going to be a very boring lab from the beginning. It's actually going to be even more boring than before because ElasticBeanstalk has actually changed substantially. It's actually a better service than it used to be. It's not a service that a lot of people who deal a lot with AWS are going to talk about a lot, but it's a much better service now, but it makes the lab even more boring. But so we're going to run through that pretty quickly. We don't really need any external things for that, but because of what we're going to be covering on Wednesday, we're going to dive into we're going to start diving into infrastructure as code tonight. This does all go together. There's a space that all of this exists in. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover what infrastructure as code is, and we're also going to do a little bit of a lab with Terraform, a pretty basic lab, but we're going to do a lab spinning up some services to kind of get us ready for next time. Cloudformation, when we get into Cloudformation on Wednesday, Cloudformation is going to be confusing to a lot of you here. The concept of what it does is going to be should be straightforward, but when we're actually doing things with it, it's going to seem kind of crazy. Terraform makes it a little bit easier, so I actually think if you're introduced to a little bit of Terraform tonight, when we get to Cloudformation and the CDK next time, it won't be so crazy. So first thing we're going to go through again is the not Cloudformation, is ElasticBeanstalk, and then we will hop through Terraform. And like I said, the ElasticBeanstalk is something good for you to know. So nothing tonight, I want to be clear, nothing tonight is ElasticBeanstalk, and knowing what it is might be on the Cloud Practitioner exam, but you do not need to know in depth how to use it. There won't be any questions on there about it. And even on the associate level exams, there won't really be any in-depth questions about ElasticBeanstalk. There used to be a lot. They've kind of pulled back from it again because people have kind of taken to other tools, other things to do their orchestration of their AWS services. So we'll go over it. It is important to know. It is absolutely a solution. that you may want to use one day. We might use it tonight, and you'd be like, oh, why isn't everyone using this? And we'll talk about some of that as well. So let's get over to the Academy. Let's hop into our slides. I need to cut on the fan in here. And so this is the first one. I hope we can get through this first one real quick so we can spend some time with Terraform. And you can see here there are only 4 slides. I'm going to share the link. Oh, well, never mind. We already got the link shared. Excellent. Cool. So I will present and we'll dive right in with ElasticBeanstalk, and then we'll head over to Terraform. Ooh, Beanstalk. Yeah, I mean, yes, Beanstalk is, like I said, it's actually I do like it as a service. I think its uses are fairly limited. Well, you could use it for a lot of things. My glasses, I cleaned them and they got dirtier when I, clean them. I just move the smudges around. So that's okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. That's a lot better, actually. But yeah, let's just hop right into it, because I don't know. I feel like I talked to so many people who use Beanstalk, and I've had nothing but poor experiences with it, except for when I've checked it out recently. And so, I may have to take back some of the things I said, but wait, no, let's do it. Oh no, my settings aren't correct. It's AWS Elastic Beanstalk. This ain't your normal Beanstalk, Jack. Okay, we use it. Again, I gotta get my money's worth. I think if I do that 10 more times, I'll have my money's worth, and I'll feel like I paid for something when I bought this mixer that I still have no idea how to use. Okay. So first, let's talk about orchestration a little bit. And this is not to be confused with container orchestration or anything like that. So the term orchestration is used a lot nowadays. The reason that it came about, the reason why it's used so much, is because now that you have all these distributed computers, you have this distributed computing nature with many services that you can have at will. Being able to manage those things is pretty important. And so a lot of the tools and things today are centered around this concept of orchestrating them and orchestration of them. So what is that really quick? Application or service orchestration is the process of integrating 2 or more applications and or services together to automate a process. So it's getting them to work together to automate a process or synchronize data in real time. Often point-to-point integration may be used as a path of least resistance. So all orchestration is taking your tools and your services and providing a framework around them to handle them, to connect them together so that they work in the nature and that you want them to work in. Well, there's a lot more that goes into this, but at the very high level, again, it's just the management of your services or your applications. And again, it's usually done automatically. Quick topic off the table. So what is Elastic Beanstalk? And there's a lot of words here. And again, this is straight off of Amazon site, and we'll break this down just a little bit. But AWS Elastic Beanstalk is an orchestration service. That's why we want to learn a little bit about orchestration, but it's an orchestration service offered by Amazon Web Services for deploying applications. And this, I should bold this. That's what it's for. It's for deploying applications. The application is the focal point here, not the infrastructure. The application is the focal point. And so what it does is it orchestrates various AWS services, including EC2, S3, Simple Notification Service, CloudWatch, Auto Scaling, and Elastic Load Balancers. A lot of words there, a lot of services there, but basically what happens is this. It is a managed it's basically managed applications inside of AWS. You basically pass off your code to AWS, and they kind of take care of the rest. You upload your code to them. They do a little bit of magic to determine, hey, I see that you're running a Node.js application. I see that you're running a Go application. I see that you are running a Python web application here. I am going to do my best to spin up the services and things necessary for that to work. And so I may take that in. Initially, I'll spin up an EC2 instance, and that EC2 instance will have the necessary things for a Python program to run. And it'll have Python already installed on it. And if you have a requirements.txt in there, it will, install all of the necessary packages and things like that, and it will provide the load balancers and all that stuff to run your service. So you get all of it by default. You get all of it out of the box. It's kind of really nice and easy. It also manages everything else about it. It manages the elasticity of it. It manages the scalability of it. Throws it behind a load balancer. So it'll do all those things for you. And you might say, oh man, that sounds like why do we need to learn any of it if we can pass everything off to Elastic Beanstalk? And again, because whenever something sounds that good, it is too good to be true. Yes, Elastic Beanstalk will do a lot for you, and you do still remain in control of all of those services, but they sit behind kind of this tool. But what it does is it tries to do a lot of the thinking for you, and a lot of times for organizations that's not going to be good enough. So maybe for you and your project that may be good enough, and setting things up how you need it may be good enough, but for most enterprise organizations that's not the case. And this can't quite be used for things like that. Also, that it doesn't provide any out of the box. It doesn't provide any really opportunities for you to integrate with third-party services and things like that. So if you're using other tools and services and things, you will still have to do all those things. The management of the servers and things, you still need someone to kind of hop in and do those things, patching and things like that. All that stuff still needs to happen. So I don't know, it's been generally a great tool for developers to get an application up and running pretty easily in the cloud, and keep it running and not have to worry about kind of the underlying things, because Amazon will take care of that for you. But again, it takes away, it doesn't take away anything, because you can again access all those things, you can manage all the things, but it's kind of just an extra layer on top of AWS, and people generally have taken to other services, things like Terraform, things like Cloudformation, that we can use to more concisely automate the things that we want to automate. So yeah, the one other big thing is that there's no additional cost for this service. So again, it's because it's utilizing all of AWS's stuff anyway. It's utilizing EC2 and S3 and stuff like that. They don't charge you anything extra for it. It's just a piece of software that's set up for you to be able to easily spin up web applications without having to worry about all the other stuff. So if you are a developer, if you're talking to a developer about how they can get their application up and running, again, this may be an option. It's probably not, it's an option, and it's probably a pretty easy option. Whether or not it's the right option for cost reasons, for performance reasons, always can be debated, and it's probably not going to be honest, but it is an easy way to do that. So that's all the slides for this, and we're gonna hop straight in. And again, he's passing the ball off because it's just the same way you pass off your code. Pass it off, look away, and Amazon will take care of the rest. And again, that part is very nice. If I was a developer, but before I knew, before I got super in depth with Amazon, this would have been a way for me to very easily run something. It can be a bit expensive because sometimes they spin up stuff that you just don't really need. There's kind of a base layer of things that they'll spin up. If you pass them some code, they're gonna basically throw it on an EC2 instance. That's basically what they're gonna do. But you don't have to worry about the management of that EC2 instance up front. Like, you're not gonna have to grab Ubuntu, and you're not going to have to get everything updated, and you're not going to have to install Go and get the web server set up. All that's going to kind of come standard for you, which can save you a little bit of time. So it's kind of nice. So let's log in to our console. Grab a little bit of water. Then I should have grabbed a little LaCroix. I still have some cans of LaCroix downstairs. All right. Phone right here. This is still my personal account, which I still haven't paid. That I have confirmed now. It is $11.19, and the only reason I haven't paid it is because my card's not on file. And I'll get to it when I get to it. I will definitely get to it when I get to it. But we have our business account, which gets paid every month on time, like it should. Let's go over to our real account. And I'm surprised they still have it active. The problem is it's been like 2 years. What is this? It's mine. What is this? They did this to us last time. Why did they do this to us last time? Console.aws.com. There we go. This is the right one. One day I'll take care of it. Let's see. We will hop in and we will put in our code. Oh, I'm sure it's plenty. Like, like I'm sure it's I mean, so the problem is that I've never used my I made that account. The problem was I made the account to do this course, but then I did some stuff in there, and then I found out my job, like they're like, hey, we have accounts for you to do this stuff out of, and so they were like, well, we probably won't reimburse you, we just use our accounts. So I switched right over, and then like I just didn't log in for a while, and I saw the emails, didn't really pay too much attention to them just because like I'm lazy, and I was like, they want me to do something, and I just kind of never went back to it, and it's been sitting there like that. So like I said, I'll take care of it one day. I should just take care of it now, but you know, I never remember until I accidentally log into it, just like right now. They don't really send me anything about it anymore, but whatever. So what were we doing? We are going into ElasticBeanstalk. So what I want you to do is, first, you need to know that where does ElasticBeanstalk sit underneath the hierarchy of Amazon Web Services and the services that they offer. It does in fact sit under the compute area. It sits under here. ElasticBeanstalk is right here, and that is something they might ask you on the exam, but like I said, nothing super specific about it. So go ahead and click on ElasticBeanstalk and get logged in and get to right here. You can see I have nothing set up, and we're going to walk through. The lab of this is going to be us clicking some buttons, and everyone will be able to get a service up and running today very quickly. You pretty much cannot fail at this. We'll look at the different pieces of it. We'll click around. We'll understand what the application is. But like I said, it's really a managed applications service from Amazon. So bring us your code, upload your code. I'll show you where you can do that at. If not, we don't have any code right now. They have a bunch of sample apps for different languages that you can use. So we should be good to go. That's tough. I mean, I'm sorry, Jeff. I mean, you know what? You're right. I need to pay the $11, 90 something cents, so that Jeff Bezos can eat dinner. You're right. You know, it's terrible. I've only been worried about myself, you know, and not really thinking about whether or not he's gonna be able to eat. I mean, you know, maybe what Jeff Bezos should do is all those packages. So I watched a whole like YouTube video about what happens to returned Amazon packages. It is the most interesting thing in the world. Like there's so many goods, perfectly good goods, just sitting around in warehouses getting sold off in giant bins. It's very interesting. So if he wants to eat, maybe he should do something with that, you know. Your screen does not look like mine. Okay, if your screen does not look like mine and you're in ElasticBeanstalk, what might have happened is this is probably some new interface. They always are changing up their interfaces. There's probably something in here that says, you know, go to the new look or something. Maybe you have like a pop-up or something that says go to the new style, the new view, maybe not. I don't know. The ElasticBeanstalk that I know didn't look like this either. So I don't know if, I mean, I'm assuming this is the new thing. Because I opted into that, I think. Let's see if there's a, usually they'll give you an option to go back to the old one. Is everyone else is looking like mine, or is it looking a little bit different? One second, I need to cut on the fan real quick. I need to do some smart home stuff. This looks like mine. Perfect. One second. All right, fans on. Only reason I cut off the camera is because I've seen enough of the internet where I'm fully clothed, you know, I have on shorts, everything, but you know, sometimes you get up and your butt crack comes out or something, and then people will make jokes about, look at you got plumber's crack, and you know, we're trying to watch how to code, but we can't concentrate because, you know, something happens like that. So, you know, no more. We've had one wardrobe malfunction. We're not gonna have any more on here. That's the only reason. All right, so we're in here. We're in ElasticBeanstalk. We're in a brand new AWS service, super duper nice, you know, super nice and easy. And so what you get when you're here is you get two options over here on the left. You get your environments and you get your applications. And which one do we care about? We want to care about environments right now. They will both be spun up when you do something. So your application is going to be your actual code, and your environment is going to be the underlying services that support it. Derobed. I like that. I like the new class Derobed. That's a good name. I got to steal that. So when you click, so what I did is all I did was click create application. I was in the environment section and I clicked create new environment. And here, and once we get here, it gives us some options here. It says, hey, ElasticBeanstalk has two types of environments, or two types of environment tiers that support different type of web applications. Web servers are standard. So if you want a web application, if you want an application that's served over the web, over port 80 over port 443, that is going to be your web server. So that's one thing that we can have here. But they're also, like, all servers aren't web servers. There are a lot of other applications run besides web applications. And so that is what worker environments can be used for. So you can actually set up other servers to handle different tasks besides serve things over the web. But web servers are exactly what we are gonna get here. So you said, environment only gives me welcome screen. Is it this screen right here? Do you see that create application button anywhere on there? It probably does look different. Yeah, so go ahead and click on that create application button. Oh, interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. Even in the create applications thing, I'm pretty sure the walkthrough for the create applications will also create us an environment. So yeah, go ahead and click on, it doesn't really matter, but let's go applications first, because you can create them separately. But go ahead and create that new application first, just so we can all see the same thing, since that's the screen that it's taking you to. And so your application is going to be you defining the application that you're bringing to Amazon for them to deploy for you. So give it an application name. We're going to call this Mastermind. What do we call this? Let's just call it Beanstalk Lab, even though it's not really a lab, because we're not going to do really anything besides spin it up, because it's actually much easier than it used to be. Like, it's kind of impressive actually, but it's pretty easy. So give it a description. I'm gonna say Horizons example Beanstalk app. Can you use Docker with Beanstalk? Like, why would it be useful if you have great questions. Excellent questions. I do think Docker is an option here. I'm gonna check, we'll see in a second. I do think Docker is an option. The reason why it might be useful is that, again, you don't need to understand how the underlying understand how the underlying infrastructure is working or care about it. So the same way that we manually set up EC2 instances and load balancers and things like that, to run your Docker container, if you're not going to use any of their managed services to run a container, you would have to log into that EC2 instance, update it, get Docker installed, authenticate with whatever your container repository is, pull down the containers that you need and run a command to run them, and you've got to manage those things as well. But using something like this, you wouldn't have to worry about any of that underlying stuff, at least up front. You would have to worry about the maintenance of it, but at least up front, you wouldn't have to, spin up the server manually and set up, make sure Docker's installed and set up the web server and all that other stuff. You wouldn't have to set up any of your reverse proxies or anything like that. Okay. And so tags, we will learn about tags for other resources. This is metadata that gets assigned to these things that will allow us to more easily be able to manage these things, to identify these things. So a tag might be name. Name's already reserved to key tag here. I don't know. I'll do a tag called environment or something. And I'm gonna call this environment development. Who knows? We don't really need one, but we'll do it. And we can click create, and that's fine. So right here, we get this, it creates this application for us, which is great, but the application doesn't really exist without an environment. You need the environment to set things up. That's why I said you needed both. You need them to work in tandem. The environment is just the the space that the stuff runs on, you know, whatever the runtime is, whatever the language is, and the underlying servers and things like that. That's the environment. The underlying infrastructure is the environment, whereas the application is kind of the actual application setup, kind of a namespace for what's going to be going on for your code actually. So now that we have this one application setup in there, it allows us to create a new environment. We could have done this first, either one. But now we need to go ahead and create that environment as well. And so now we want this to be we want it to be a web service instead of a work environment. Again, we're just making a quick thing to serve from the web. So make sure you have web server environment selected and go ahead and click that select button. And now if you're going through this process first, if you're going through the environment process first, you'll probably have to fill in this stuff. But because I've already given my my application a name, it's going to autofill this for me. You can call this whatever you want. It filled it with that. I do not need to do anything. I don't need to do anything with that. But it's worth noting, you can assign, because I had done this, I'm creating this environment from that application. It autofills this and locks this in. If you could actually create this, like if you create an environment first, you can select an application from a number of applications for you to use underneath this. Pretty sure you could also use you could set up an environment for like multiple environments for a single application if you would like. But yeah, it's already autofilled there, so you just need to select the application that you care about and then give it a name, which could be anything. The domain, I'm going to leave blank to let it generate a value, but you could try to say, I could check. I could say, actually, we'll do it. Mastermind Beanstalk. And I can check for availability here. And it looks like it's available. So cool. I'll use that. You can give a description if you want. Not super necessary. The domain is, again, it's just going to be the URL that's given to this. But you can let it generate by default if you want, and it will provide that to you once you spin up that environment. Now we're hopping in with the managed platforms published and maintained by ElasticBeanstalk. This is what we're going to want right here. Just leave it. That's your only option. Now here is what's important. Depending on what your underlying service is. So again, you have Docker here as an option. Glassfish, Go, Java, Node, PHP, Python, Ruby, Tomcat. You need to tell this environment what technology you're running on, what kind of services you're running, because it needs to know what so what it's really doing underneath. And let's start to utilize again some of the things that we've learned. It needs to know what AMI, what Amazon Machine Image it needs to boot for you. And so what they do have is they have a number of Amazon Machine Images that are set up to be able to serve information from certain environments. So it's already going to have a web server set up on it. It's already going to have, again, like the Go runtime or the PHP runtime or whatever. It's going to be configured and ready to go. And it's going to be set up in a certain place. And then basically it's just going to take in your code and it's going to stick it in the right place on the server. And it's going to do its best to read from there and work. And so what we're going to do, choose whichever one you'd like. Maybe not whichever one. Well, I'm going to choose, I'll choose Python for now, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We're not actually going to go in and do anything. But you can choose that. You can choose whatever ones that you would like. I will leave everything default. Doesn't really matter. If you have a specific version of Python that you need, again, you can change it. Well, you can't actually, you can change it. You can select whatever version your program actually needs, which is nice. And here's where you can upload some code. So if we had code to upload, we could upload code. And so this is how you can do it. You can do it from a local file, or you could stick your code into an S3 bucket. So I could put it in an S3 bucket and I could tell it which S3 bucket to pull it from. So that's pretty cool. We know S3 is used to store objects. We can store stuff in S3 and tell it to pull from there, or upload from our local computer. But we'll just use this sample application. So getting started right away with sample code. They have a number of sample applications written in each of the runtimes that you selected for up here for the platform. And it will start up a service using that sample application, which is really nice. So I would try Docker. I'm assuming Docker will be fine. Actually, let's try Docker. I actually want to see what it does. I'm actually really interested to see what it does. So I'll choose Docker. I'll have it run the sample application, and all you got to do now is click create environment. Do all that. There are more options. you don't even need to know about those right now. We're just, you know, clicking around, seeing how easy it is to get up and running with something like this. And it's going to create an environment. Now, one of the things that's going to happen for me not clicking create more or go to the more options, like I said, this will spin up an EC2 instance for us. Now, what do we know about EC2 instances and when you spin them up? We know that at the end, it asks you what key you need to be able to, you know, get in there and look around and see things. What SSH key do you want to use? It did not ask us that. We're likely not going to, it's likely not going to be using a key that we have access to, but we'll check that in a second. But it's going to give you some output. It's going to say, hey, I'm creating this environment for you, and this is going to take a few minutes, and it'll give you some logs about what's actually happening. So we can let this run. Let's let it run. Let's let it finish and see what it gives us. All right, created an Elastic IP. So we didn't talk. I don't think we talked about Elastic IPs yet. It says created an EI. Let's go from the bottom actually. Create environment started. So it started to run the process of creating the environment. It says, hey, using ElasticBeanstalk.us. It's using, this is an ARN. This is that Amazon resource. And this is actually the name for the S3 bucket, but this is going to be it's prepended with the ARN here. And it says as Amazon S3 storage bucket for environment data. So what it's actually doing is it's actually creating a bucket, an S3 bucket for us in our environment here. And we're going to check and see what that looks like as well. Create a security group. So now we have a security group here. We know that is how, that's that virtual firewall we have that allows us to control, you know, the influx of traffic that comes in our server, you know, via different protocols. Environment health has transitioned to pending. Initialization in progress. Running for 18 seconds. There are no instances. Created an EIP, which is an Elastic IP address. This is a permanent IP address that can be attached and detached from servers. They do cost money. They cost $1 a month. And then waiting for EC2 instances to launch. This may take a few minutes. So you actually can leave the screen. You could have left the screen from the very beginning. But what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this tab twice really quick so that one, we can head over to S3 and we can head over to EC2 and see what the heck this thing is doing for us. S3, now we have a bucket now. This is the one they talked about. Elastic, this is tiny. Elastic Beanstalk. Let's close this over here. Where is it? Elastic Beanstalk. So this is the bucket that it created, and in here there are some object resources, runtime environments. So it has the things that are in here to define basically what our setup is here, our application, our environments. It has them all in this bucket, and this is where they're stored. Every new deployment kind of you have of this will handle that, or it will, or updates to this will reuse the same bucket. So it did in fact create a bucket in our account and threw a few objects in there. And then let's look at our amount of running instances, which shouldn't be many. There's one unnamed one, which I'm pretty sure is the one that it just created, but maybe not. Web 1, I don't know why this is running. This is old. This is something that we worked on. But actually, here it is. Mastermind Beanstalk Lab environment. There's a T2 micro instance spinning up, and it is now green. So it is running and available. And let's see what key it used, so we can see if we can actually log in or not. Probably not. Key pair name, no key pair. We can't log into it unless we use Sessions Manager. So we're gonna actually redo this in a second. But yeah, it did spin up some stuff. But take a look back at this thing over here. Go ahead and click back on environments here. And underneath environments, maybe you can probably see this from applications as well. Let's see. If I click on application and I click on Beanstalk here, it gives me a URL to click on. And if I click on that, it gives us a sample app. And so you all can actually see this from here. I share this in a second with you. Missed a bunch of the videos in between because of final exams. Where are all the AWS videos listed in order? They are on She Will Not Be Named. They are on YouTube. Oh yes, y'all are always 10 steps ahead of me, always. But they're on YouTube. They're there. I want to say I uploaded them all. I'm not sure if I uploaded last week's, but they should be. I think they're all there. I'm gonna go with that. If not, they're very close to all being there. I think you were like a week behind. Okay, 1 second. So what I wanted to do is share this link with you. You'll probably have your own link, but I'll share this with you so that you all can see the sample application that is currently up and running right now. And so, look, they just have some random stuff in here, video tutorials. So teach you a little bit about Docker, sample applications, documentation. Now, I would like to actually log in and see what's going on here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm gonna start up another one of these. Let's just take a step back and see how pretty simple that was to do. We clicked on, we created a quick app, we clicked through, created a quick kind of space for an application, gave it a name. Basically that's all we did really, is give it a name and a tag maybe. And then you set up an environment, just letting AWS know what type of application you're gonna be running. And told them we want to use their sample apps, and we click create, and it made a whole environment for us that had all these things there for us, which is super nice. So it's running, and you can get some information, the health of it right here. Is it okay? Is it not? When it was created, the URL, what it's running, the version that it's running, the platform it's running on, the state, supported or unsupported, tier name, web server. Really nice. And again, this is really nice if I was a developer, if I was working on an application and I want to say, all right, proof of concept time, I just need a place where this is accessible to people, where I don't have to worry about things. I just take my code, I upload it. Where we selected sample app, if I had choose to upload my code, upload it, throw it in an S3 bucket. You can deploy your code that way as well. Again, it is nice. It is very easy. It makes a lot of sense for development purposes. But you do have full control over these things. So notice how it didn't self-contain these things. It spun up an EC2 instance and an S3 bucket, all things that we have control over. All things that we have, a lot of control over, which is nice. So super easy to get in there and do whatever you want with it. But again, it can be a little, if you were trying to manage and orchestrate a lot of services, this really isn't, it would work, it can work, but it's not really the ideal tool or the ideal solution for it. But again, for development purposes, especially, I actually know of a number of organizations that use ElasticBeanstalk for, like, the main application is, has its own setup and everything's great, but they use Beanstalk for development services and setting up development pipelines, which I think again is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. It is just another tool that Amazon provides for you to be able to do this stuff. It really was. I think the thing is, Beanstalk was it's a pretty early product in their portfolio. It was what now Terraform and Cloudformation and CDK and all that stuff, it's what they have become. Like, it was the kind of it was the start of kind of all that, their first efforts and kind of making that a thing, and then they kind of branched it all. Like, the goal of it was kind of that, but it was also kind of like, hey, let's get the development workflow down, let's try to abstract away as much of the process as we can, so that people kind of only have to worry about their code. And it's like, hey, just bring us your code, we'll manage the application for you. And that's kind of what it began to turn into, and that's kind of what it's been since then. You used to have a little more granularity. I mean, you still do, but you used to have, in the interface of this, you used to have some more granularity over what your infrastructure really was underneath. You probably still do. Honestly, I haven't been through all this stuff, but again, it's not crazy important that you know this in depth. Just know that you have an option to easily spin up an application. As long as it's on that list, you can use it. And so if you're using something that's written in something that's not on that list, then I probably will encourage you to Dockerize it, then you can use Docker to kind of run anything and just use their Docker runtime to do that. I wonder, upload and deploy. So it sounds like I could upload maybe for Docker. I guess I could upload a, I'm assuming I can upload like a Docker file, maybe. I'm not really sure what I could deploy for Docker, at least. Probably a Docker file, or maybe a Docker Compose file would allow me to do that. Not important that you know what Docker is. We're not there, but it is a cool tool that I do encourage people to look into when they're ready. But yeah, you get some cool little things out of this as well. You kind of get a concise dashboard for things like monitoring and health, so you can find out, you know, what's going on. And so this is like, there are a lot of tools for this already at Amazon, but they're super robust. They're kind of big, they're hard to, you know, follow, and they're in different places. So if you wanted to go get information about your EC2 instances, you'd have to head over to CloudWatch, and you know, you need to make sure all the metrics and stuff are set up, and it's kind of hard to parse through. This makes it a little bit more easily digestible in what you're doing, you know, and what your infrastructure actually looks like. So I've also known people who use this exclusively for their own projects. Again, I think there are cheaper tools. There are cheaper tools to use, but maybe not easier, honestly, to be 100% honest. And you're now in the AWS ecosystem. So if you need to expand or you need to do more, it's pretty easy to do that now that you're already inside of it using something like this. But yeah, real light, real chill, you know, click through a couple buttons, you can have a sample application up and running. I would encourage you to actually maybe go on GitHub and try to find like a sample, maybe like just go in here and search for like a sample web application, like sample web app. Maybe you want to Google it, maybe GitHub sample web application, and maybe find, there's a lot of sample web applications out there. Maybe grab one, try to download one, see if you can upload it and see if you can get it running in this. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it might be fun to just kind of play around, see what you run into, see what problems you run into, things like that. You know, I don't even think you need to necessarily read through all the stuff there, but see what works. It's a bring your own code application management platform, and it's kind of nice. It's there. If I could log into it, actually, no, we should get to Terraform because of it's going to take a lot longer. But I would love to log into this instance because it is just an instance, but we don't have the key. There was no key set up with it, but I would love to just log in and kind of see what's running. It's probably just running a hold on, let's see, probably just Docker container with maybe JavaScript in there. What is this site built with? Let's see if we can find out some information about this. So they are using Nginx as their web server. That's great because we know Nginx and that's what they're using. So again, these are all things that we did not have to set up. We know that to serve data over the web, we would have had to configure an Nginx server, and it looks like they've configured that for us. Again, besides that, it looks like they're just using, you know, HTML and CSS for this page right here. JavaScript, nothing super crazy or fancy, so nice. From CLI, it's really easy to work with EB. Yeah. So ElasticBeanstalk from a CLI is that part is really nice. I still, like I said, I just still haven't found a reasonable, but again, it might just come out of what I'm used to, a reasonable workflow for it yet. But it's really easy to deploy new ElasticBeanstalk changes and updates and new environments and things from the command line. And so what it does do, though, I will say this, it allows you early on, as someone who's passionate about DevOps, who's passionate about automation, and kind of making your life easier, what it does do is it allows you to much more simply kind of get some of that automation in place. Like if you want to implement your own process of, like, you know, deploying brand new stuff out whenever you update it, you know, like right now, at least, you don't have to worry about learning all the tools to update all of your infrastructure and stuff. You can, once you figure out how to use ElasticBeanstalk, you can take those CLI commands and you can plug them right into a quick, simple script that will do all that stuff for you. So it's nice. It's a cool tool. It really is a cool tool. but again, I think it's more so, I would keep in mind that, again, I think it's a great tool for development. I think it's a great tool for getting things up and running quickly. For let's say your organization comes to you and everyone wants to put together a proof of concept for something. ElasticBeanstalk might be exactly what you want. You might want to say, hey, let's not worry about the infrastructure right now. We're doing a proof of concept of this tool. We don't care about the infrastructure right now. You guys go build it, and we'll just get it up with ElasticBeanstalk, or again, development environments, things like that. Smaller projects, I think this is great for, and I think that's what you should be thinking. And I think you'll see how this differs from what we get to next. And again, I think this is going to make it feel even more, I think you're going to be even more drawn to ElasticBeanstalk when we start to get into Terraform, because you'll be like, I don't want to worry about that stuff. But unfortunately, when things get bigger than, a couple, once you start getting a decent user base and more robust infrastructure, you need some bigger and better tools to solve your problem. So yeah, use GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, push EB on repo, change for development. Yeah, you could absolutely do that. I think my problem is, I think my issue is that, one, I generally, if you can avoid using a web server, I say avoid a web server, but that's a different argument altogether. If you can avoid having a server at all, avoid having a server at all. And then the next step is if you can't, you containerize it. And the way that, because I know containers so well, I actually think that the management of EB or deploying containers through a workflow, through a CI workflow, would be much heavier than something you can just do with Compose or something. But I don't know, it's all debatable. There's zero right answers here. There's zero right answers here. People use it. It's been around for a long time. It's certainly a better product than it used to be. I can't tell you how many times we've had people come to us and be like, yeah, like, I've gotten this thing running on ElasticBeanstalk. It's working great. It was working great. I haven't had any problems, but now we're starting to get a bunch of traffic and things, and having to deal with some of the problems that come out of that, and kind of extracting what ElasticBeanstalk is managing from what you need to change can be a little bit, a little bit gross. But again, that's my experience dealing with it in a professional setting. Good product, not good for everything. It would not be great for a personal like a portfolio. Exactly. The project in which it makes sense seems to be so small. Like, I wouldn't use it for a personal project like a portfolio that's going to be long running, because again, I just think an EC2 instance is certainly overkill for that. It will be a lot cheaper to GitHub pages. So they're just, again, it is a good product. There are just other options now, but it is something that Amazon wants you to know about. It's something that you should know about when you're dealing with the Amazon ecosystem, as an easy option to spin up things. And again, EC2 instances, they're not crazy. They're not crazy expensive. So sometimes it might make sense. There are some things you can't stick in the S3 bucket. There are some things that you can't stick on GitHub pages. There are applications and things that you may need to test. That's not just an informational website. So just, again, a good option here. Okay, pretty standard, pretty straightforward. It's a tool that you can use. So if you ever want to go impress someone how fast you can spin up a site, go ahead and go to ElasticBeanstalk, click through a little bit, and spin up use their sample app. I think all of their sample apps look different. I believe the example one I did with Go did not look like this at all, or maybe it looks similar to this. Their JavaScript is bad, or their CSS. Oh no, it's not. Well, it's a sample app, no big deal. And so if you think you want to start to dive into some of those development aspects, I actually do think there's a fair amount of ElasticBeanstalk questions on the SysOps one, and actually that's why I failed when I took the SysOps one without studying too. I studied for the developer exam, and I got almost 100% on the developer exam. I was the first person out. Like, I took it at AWS reInvent, and a room full of, it was the biggest testing room I've ever been in. It's like 100 people in there. I was the second person out. Super easy, really great. Because I did that, I was like, oh, cool. I'm about to just sign up for the next two. So I signed up without studying anything else. I signed up for both exams, like a couple days apart. And I took the sysops first because I had so much ops experience. I was like, gonna be cake. I did not study at all. I walked in that thing and I did pretty good. I got like a 71, not pretty good, I did okay. I got a 71, and the section that I did the worst on was ElasticBeanstalk, because at that time I hadn't needed it for anything, and they asked a lot of questions at that time. They have changed the exam up. There are not as many ElasticBeanstalk questions because, again, it's not as pivotal of a service for them as it used to be. And for the solutions architect associate, they had a fair number of questions there, but again, not so much anymore. Still questions, but not as much of an emphasis on it. They had very specific questions about it at that time. Okay, now 7:51. That was a little longer than I was hoping, but now we're gonna hop into Terraform. And I know I didn't tell you we're going to go over Terraform. We're going to talk about infrastructure as code tonight, and I actually think this is a great opportunity to do so because, like I said, on a Wednesday, we're going to be doing Cloudformation. Now, I want to caveat all of this by saying I'm giving you my beliefs, is that I believe that Terraform is a superior tool to Cloudformation, but we're going to spend less time on Terraform because this is an AWS course. And Cloudformation is an AWS product used to manage their own services, but Terraform is very important in the cloud game. It's something to know about, whether or not you're going to be doing any type of engineering in the cloud or whatever. Understanding kind of how people are managing their cloud resources is very important for whatever you're going to do. And again, Terraform is kind of becoming the standard for how that's done. There are other options, but Terraform has become kind of the de facto go-to for exactly what we're going to talk about tonight, for the infrastructure as code. So get rid of that first slide deck with those 4 different things on it. We're heading over to the second slide deck of the night, and to go back into my mastermind. Went over here, and I need to go to 11.2, infrastructure as code with Terraform. Now, I'm gonna caveat this right now. We are gonna be hopping into a text editor. We're gonna be modifying code tonight. We're gonna be mostly copying and pasting. We're gonna talk to the things that we're doing. You do not focus on the concepts. Focus on the concepts. You know, if you don't have a development background, that's not a problem. This class is not a development course. This is not a cloud engineering course. This is introduction to cloud computing with AWS. The concept of what we're doing is important. Getting hands-on and doing it, not necessarily try to follow along. Again, we're actually going straight through HashiCorp's installation walkthrough, because we're doing that very specifically because, one, it's kind of, they give you the stuff to copy and paste, and we're going to modify it a little bit so that we can kind of see things happen. But also you can go through it at your own pace later, if you know, aside from this. And I think it's actually a pretty easy document to go through. It'll give you some practice going through some technical documentation and kind of running through a technical example there. But don't stress about it. The concept of what it's doing and what it's solving is what's important tonight, and then really want you to focus on that. And that's why we're talking about infrastructure as code first. So infrastructure as code: repeatable, reliable, consistent. Those are the words that I want you to remember when you think about infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code is an important concept. It is something that I would like you to write down. Again, not going to be on the exam, but as you're learning about the cloud, as you're learning about how things around the cloud are utilized, this is important. It's a very important concept. So what is IAC? And I said infrastructure as code on the first slide, and I wrote IAC here. You'll see it in both ways throughout the slide deck. You'll see it in both ways throughout all kinds of videos you watch, documentation that you're reading. It'll be in both ways. Infrastructure as code. Function build me a server. Infrastructure as code, or IAC, is the process of managing and provisioning computer data centers through machine readable definition files rather than physical hardware configurations or interactive configuration tools. Lots of words, break it down. It's a way of managing and provisioning. What is provisioning? Provisioning is creating, kind of setting up the space for these computers in a data center, but you're doing it through machine readable definition files. That's the key word here, and that's the code. So people, understand one thing: these machines read a definition file, and so it says definition file here rather than code. But it is something that the computer can understand, rather than physical hardware configuration. So not doing it manually, but basically defining. What you're going to do is you're going to open up a file. You are going to define what you want and how you want it to be, and you're going to pass it to a service. Terraform is going to be that service, and Terraform is going to read it, understand it, and say, cool, I see that you want an EC2 instance with these subnets with this much hard drive space, with this much RAM, and I'm going to go ahead and provision that for you. I'm going to go ahead and create that thing for you, and I can see that you want an S3 bucket of this name and you want the objects to be public. I will create that for you now, but you define those inside of a file. So that's the code. You write some code that defines what you want and how you want it, and you pass it off to Terraform and it creates it for you. Playlist, I need to set up a playlist command. This playlist is this. Hold on, copy, share, playlist link. This is the playlist right here if you want it. So, yes, writing these files that define what you want and how you want it, what cloud resources you want and how you want them to be set up, rather than doing it manually. So why is IAC important? Why is infrastructure as code the kind of hotness right now? Why is it important? And it's important because it creates consistent and reusable ways to deploy and manage infrastructure assets and configuration. Wouldn't it be nice? How nice would it be if, we went through the very first time we hopped into EC2, we built out a web server by hand. Oh, great. It's a good learning process. It's something that needs to be done. You need to have done that. But when we got to the part where we were dealing with the load balancers and stuff, we hopped back in and we created everything else again by hand. We did it over and over again. With infrastructure as code, you have a consistent, reusable way to deploy these things. So I define what I want on it, and when I'm ready to deploy something with it, I can reuse that, and I can use this code. I can use these definition files to deploy one thing, and when I'm ready to deploy more, I can use those files to deploy more of those things. So it's really nice. So it's a kind of write once then reuse type of thing here. So it's really nice. Consistent being super key. If we were to spin up 9 web servers, and we would have to do that a couple different times, there's a high probability that we would maybe forget a file on one of them, maybe fat finger some type of configuration option, forget a service, and so we need consistency is key here. Reducing the human error helps a lot with infrastructure as code. Another one is that it helps prevent configuration drift. And what is configuration drift? Imagine you are working somewhere and you have 400 servers that you manage, and 300, let's say 200 of them are web servers. Let's say 100 of them are servers that manage the backend systems. Those 100 servers are all the same. 200 web servers are all the same, and the last 100 servers are maybe servers that manage your backend of your e-commerce site or something. Whatever, they're all different things. But you've got different sets of servers, and they all serve. They work together to serve the same purpose. They're clusters of servers. Prime's in the house. I will say hello to you in a second. Shout out. I'll give you that shout out. Configuration drift would be a lot of times when these things were managed by hand, people would, let's say we need to make a deployment to 200 of these web servers. you would go in and people would, you know, manually copy things over. We would try to copy some files over. There'd probably be some automation in there, but you go in and you do some stuff and deployment goes pretty good, but you're having some problems, and maybe someone logs into 3 of the servers to test some things and looks around and is looking at files and things like that, and they changed a few things to make sure things are working well. And over time, different servers get updated with different things, and automatic updates happen to some but not the others, and you get what's called configuration drift, to where the servers that are all supposed to work together and be the same, they get out of whack. They're not the same anymore. Their configuration has drifted from what it was originally intended to be, and that's pretty problematic. Infrastructure as code helps with that. It makes sure servers, not only that they're set up consistently, but that they stay consistently. They actually can run jobs, you know, throughout the life cycle of a server, and make sure that, you know, it says, hey, I thought there was supposed to be a user on here named Aaron, but for some reason it's gone. And you know what? I see this gone. I'm gonna go ahead and add the username Aaron back. So if someone's trying to hack us, you know, maybe that's not the best thing for us to see that someone's trying to hack us, but it might actually hide it and be problematic. But it'll make sure that the account that they deleted will be back, or the thing that someone fat fingered gets fixed the next time it checks in with these servers. But what's up, Prime? Good to have you, everyone. I think we talked about Prime a lot on here. I think you all are familiar with Prime, but easily the most entertaining, you know, I'm sorry for any other streamers who are in here, but easily the most entertaining stream on the Science and Tech channel, and probably most of Twitch, to be honest. The greatest Vim user you'll ever see. We are trying to be just like Prime one day, but welcome. Thanks for lurking. Thanks for hanging out. But 100, everyone definitely check out Prime. You know, we try not to raid you too often. It's always my first choice, just because, again, I have a good time over there. But yeah, everyone check out the Prime engine. I'm gonna type your name in wrong at least 3 times. This is a thing here of me spelling your name wrong whenever we're trying to raid you. There we go. I think that worked. But seriously, great content, great YouTube content. If anyone is trying to learn Vim, if anyone wants to get comfortable also with just some more advanced people who are, especially people who are in Decoded, some more advanced web development topics and just programming concepts and topics, I'm telling you, it's a great place to chill out and learn and have a good time doing it. But again, there's also some dope stuff for you to learn Vim. That's my favorite stuff right now, just because I'm trying to become a better typist. I'm trying to learn Vim. Just really good stuff. So glad you're stopping by. I appreciate it. Super legend for sure. Definitely super legend. Okay. After configuration drift, after fixing the reason why your servers get out of whack, infrastructure as code gives you free documentation. Documentation is probably the most neglected thing on the planet. It's pretty terrible, but documentation is just the you know, the information about your infrastructure and how it currently exists, and keeping that up to date is pretty difficult. But when you practice infrastructure as code, when you implement infrastructure as code, you get free documentation basically. Why? Because you get these definition files that tell the state that you wish your servers, that you wish your services and things to be in. So it's really nice. And now, again, it's not super, you know, great, like going into some documentation and saying, hey, we have this service that does this thing. No, it may not give you that much granularity, but it tells you exactly what you have and how it's supposed to be. So that's pretty dope. Speed. Infrastructure as code can deploy and provision things and configure things much faster than you can manually. I also want to put in here, I've had people not upset about this, but talk about this. Scripts are infrastructure as code, or can be forms of infrastructure as code, but there are better tools for it than scripts. Scripts may be a good supporting candidate depending on what you're doing. It can be a tool you can use to help you achieve certain things, but there are better things. And then automated infrastructure. So again, the same thing with everything we've been talking about. It's an automated way for you to manage, provision the infrastructure that is you know, underpinning your applications and the things that people actually care about. So a couple of really nice bullet points there for infrastructure as code. So again, think about the word. We didn't cover, you know, all the software as a service and all that other stuff, but look at the word infrastructure as code. It is actually your underlying web infrastructure as code. It is defined as code. So pillars of infrastructure as code. This might not be super important for this course. there are 3 different kinds here that I have here. This is not something you'll find outside of this stream, to be honest with you. This is how I like to break it up to make it a little bit easier to digest. There are a couple different types of infrastructure as code. So one is infrastructure provisioning, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight with Terraform. That's what Cloudformation is. This is what the Cloud Development Kit is. It is provisioning infrastructure, your actual cloud resources, those things like S3 buckets, setting up your networks, EC2 instances, all that stuff, setting up your IAM users and roles and stuff like that in groups. Managing those cloud resources, that's infrastructure provisioning. That is the creation of infrastructure. And to me, that's one pillar of infrastructure as code. That is one piece of it. That is one major thing that you can do with it. And again, the tools that will fall into that are Terraform, Cloudformation, Cloud Development Kit. There's one called Pulumi, and there are a few other ones. Microsoft has one for their cloud product. So does Google as well. Then we have one called server and software configuration management, and you'll probably see this in various job recs and stuff, and you've probably heard of configuration management. This is the piece that takes place after you've provisioned the infrastructure. So you've provisioned the infrastructure. Now a configuration management tool or platform can now take over and can now configure the server how you want. So if we use Terraform to spin up an EC2 instance, for us to be able to install, so you can do a lot of this in Terraform. That's not important right now. Configuration management allows you to say, hey, all right, on these servers, on these web servers that we have, those 200 web servers that we were talking about, I can say, hey, on anything that's tagged as a web server, I want to make sure Nginx is installed, and I want to make sure it's installed to use it with these Nginx configuration files, these exact Nginx configuration files, and I want to make sure they have these 5 users on them, and I want to make sure they have PHP installed on them. I want to make sure they have Go installed on them. I also want to make sure that these files are now downloaded here because people are going to need to download them, and I can set up the entire configuration of the server. Everything that you can do on a service or server, you can do through a configuration management platform. And these tools are a little bit different. These are things like Chef. We're gonna be doing a whole OpsWorks thing, but Chef, Puppet, Ansible is probably the bigger one nowadays that I generally recommend. I have the most experience with Chef and Puppet, but Ansible is probably the biggest. Salt Stack, but these are to configure and to keep up-to-date servers. So you provision infrastructure, and then you configure that infrastructure. You configure those services and those servers, and that's configuration management. And the last pillar that I would say is scripting. And you can utilize all these things to be able to fully automate your infrastructure, fully automate your applications, and what runs those applications. So those are the kind of 3 pillars. Again, not crazy important to any of the exams, but really, again, a really good thing to know. Cloudformation's big brother, kinda actually. I remember when Terraform was like first starting to be kind of utilized. I actually went to, so here in Baltimore, I'm in Baltimore for people who don't know, here, probably the biggest company, most well-known company, at least that's headquartered here, is Under Armour, and they used to host a number of like DevOps meetups and technical meetups and stuff over there, and they actually introduced me to Terraform first years ago, a long time ago, and it was pretty interesting. It took us through a whole little thing, and I remember thinking like, nah, this is not gonna take off, I don't feel it, but it is, because it's a little more while Cloudformation and Terraform do the same thing for AWS, Terraform is actually built in a way that it can be extended to really support any product. So once you kind of understand Terraform, it's not the same, but you can also use it to manage, Azure or a Google Cloud Platform, or even just VMs inside of ESX or whatever you want to do. It can be kind of extended to work with whatever service you want to work with. I think they have some stuff for DigitalOcean and all kinds of other stuff as well. So it is, I guess it's kind of the big brother. I guess it's kind of I feel like they're the same age. I feel like they're maybe twins, but one twin is much better than the other twin. Like, just in all ways, just much. They're fraternal twins. Fraternal twins, where one twin is just far superior, to be 100% honest. All right, so don't know what those things are. Apply to the job to Under Armour. I mean, Under Armour is I don't, they seem pretty cool until I think one of the problems recently was I think they switched a lot of their underlying systems to Salesforce, and I think they had like a huge exodus of engineers because of it. But hey, you know, I don't know. All I know is Under Armour, your stock, Under Armour stock right now made me some money. You know, they lost me some money in the past. No big deal. But they've made me some money. You know, I'm a Maryland resident. I also have been on a lot of sports teams where Under Armour was the person. My brother was actually when he was a high school football coach, he was like the Under Armour like high school like ambassador or something. So, you know, I had to support him. My brother's he's a football coach, not head coach. He is the running backs coach at Maryland right now, you know. So it's a lot of ties. So I try to support them. They made me a little bit of money recently, as everyone's stocks probably did. So, you know, I'll support. But Under Armour, if you're anyone who's connected to Under Armour right now, if you really want to help out the Baltimore community and want to donate a little bit of money to help me pay, you want to sponsor a little bit so I can pay that $11 bill inside of Amazon, you know where to find me. I know you do. You know how to find me. You know, I'm here. We're here. Baltimore strong. Okay. You know, the only way is through. And I go to your gym. I go to the Under Armour Performance Center. That's the gym that I go to. I pay you guys more money than I should each month because I have access to a free gym. But you know, I support. Okay, I support you. I expect I'll be hearing from you pretty soon. Okay, we're gonna skip these things. Oh, actually, everything I just said is right here. The provisioners, these are the ones that are for infrastructure provisioning. Vagrant's a really good one as well. It's a really cool tool, made by the same people actually, that you can use to provision virtual machines. Really nice. So you see I have Cloudformation down here, and you can see how it's kind of the saddest and boring out of all the cool like things up here, but no big deal. Configuration management, I didn't realize I had all these slides. And these are the things that I was talking about there. But these things aren't important. What's important is that we're gonna hop in right here. You've given up on LaCroix? No, I have not. I have not given up on LaCroix. We will never give up on LaCroix. But like I said, I think I told you guys that I made a pact with Prime, at least, that I will not accept any type of LaCroix sponsorship if they do not also sponsor Prime. So we're still working on that. They still haven't responded, but we're not a sole sponsorship organization. We can't be purchased. I say that right now. But if someone really wants to try to purchase us to be a sole sponsor of the channel, feel free to throw out numbers. I have no problem considering it. But you know, Under Armour along with LaCroix, what a great combination. Sparkling water along with excellent athletic performance wear. First off, Under Armour does not have a line. They do not have a line of programming attire, things that you need to keep you cool, to keep you performing highly while you are typing away and you're thinking really tough, you know, sweet headbands, stuff like that. And I think that we should create a line with LaCroix, because you got to be hydrated while you're doing all of it. I just think it just makes sense. I think it makes sense, and I think one day both of them will figure that out, and everything will be good. Appreciate you, MG, for the bits. I really do. We're gonna make it happen, though. I'm telling you, we're gonna make it happen. You speak it into existence, and you know, it's really nice. Performance coder wear line. It makes sense. Like, you know, it makes sense. Tech has great salaries, so that you know, now they have a whole new stream of revenue from people, you know, who can buy the products. And you know, we even like to do this stuff on the side for fun. So like, we're not even just buying the stuff for work. You know, they need to make some gunner glasses, basically. So you know, the little blue light glasses, they need to make all that stuff. I think it would be dope. Also, because The Rock works with you all, I would like to also just throw out, you know, throw out another idea that I had. Just came to me just now. I think we should do Under Armour. This is for Under Armour. We're gonna send this to you, but I think we should set up a program called Coding and Kilos. And again, we're not talking about pushing bricks. We're talking about lifting weights. You know, talking about getting in shape, getting fit with The Rock. I think it should be me teaching The Rock how to code, and The Rock I would say teaching me how to work out, but you know, I may not look like The Rock, but I think I would surprise you in the gym, The Rock. Dwayne, I think I would. I don't think you would be there teaching me how to lift or how to work. Well, maybe how to work out. My cardio is weak, but you know, I think I'd give you a run for your money. But I think coding in kilos would be a great program for everyone. Just the things that get to bubble around in this mind, you know, bubble around LaCroix, bubble around. See, oh man, we're killing the game, killing it. Throw it out there, you know, reach out to my people. And by my people, I mean, it's just me. It's me and my wife and the pup, you know, reach out to any of us. We'll respond, I promise. But we are moving on to Terraform, the stuff that really matters. Ooh, repos and reps. I like managed chaos. That's better. That's better because nothing can be misconstrued about reps as they could about kilos, and I like it. I like it a lot. Repos and reps. Okay, all right. We now are going to make an entire social media campaign for this. That's good. You will, if this goes through, I'm sticking with repos and reps. If this goes through, I promise you, you'll get your share. You'll get your fair share of whatever we work out, because that is a phenomenal name. Repos and reps. I am not going to forget that one. Everyone's here so creative, so creative. All right, let's get started with Terraform. I'll give you the link. We're going to head right through their documentation, which is really nice. We can do mostly copying and pasting, so that'll be nice as well. But what you will need, this will only work if you have your AWS CLI set up, and if you have some type of text editor that you can use to kind of go through this. VS Code is probably what you're going to be using. I'm going to use VS Code because I'm stepping so far out of the comfort zone of, I feel like this particular course, this isn't decoded. You guys haven't been watching me use Vim a lot on there, but yeah, this was a channel for dudes. I don't know what that means. If you mean by the dudes, which is me, I'll take it. But we're gonna be doing some Terraform, so let's do that. So first things first, let's take a look at what they have. Yeah, I don't either. But installing Terraform. So Terraform is its own tool. Although it's an application made by HashiCorp. HashiCorp is a pretty dope company. They have a couple other tools, popular tools, again, like Vagrant. We saw Vagrant on there. So they do have Terraform and Vagrant, and they have Terraform Vault. They have Console Packer. They have a lot of tools that they've written to really kind of work in the world of automation, in the world of DevOps and cloud computing. Packer's a really great tool to build AMIs. It's to build any kind of machine image, but people use it to automate the building of AMIs. And I like what Packer does. Like, I prefer I do not like runtime configuration, and so I usually skip out on things like configuration management if I can. I would rather the server be how I want it to be when you start it, rather than like trying to configure it after it's already running, because that presents a whole different set of challenges and possible breaking points. But you know, everyone to each his own. Every environment can be set up that way. But yeah, Terraform is the one that we're going to be doing. So let's head over to installing this now. So time to complete, 7 minutes. I don't know if that's the installation, probably the installation, but the walkthrough is actually pretty quick. So if you're on OS X, right here, it's really nice. Their walkthrough is super nice. If you're using Brew, simply Brew install Terraform. Terraform is written in Go. You all know I love Go. A lot of DevOps tools are written in Go, which is really nice. Yeah, because I like Go, but you can easily do it with that. With Brew install Terraform. Chocolate on Windows. So if you've installed Chocolate on Windows, you can do Choco install. Or if you're using something like Linux, or if you just want to install it manually, the way that you would do that is click on this manual installation over here. Click on this link right here to find the appropriate package. I hate links that don't open up a new window. So I'm gonna go back, click manual installation. I'm gonna hold Control, click it, it's gonna open up, and it's gonna tell us how to download it. And you can see here, you can download it on any of the platforms. I even think on Windows, even if you don't have Chocolatey installed, you can just click whichever one you want, and it'll take you through like a click through setup. But for Linux, like mine, I think I already have it installed. But what you would do on Linux is because it's Go, they're going to deliver it to you in a binary. They're going to deliver it to you in an executable package. So not really a bunch of stuff you have to do. All you have to do is download it. So I would click this link here. It would download it in a zip file. All I would need to do once it's downloaded is unzip it and put it in the right location. So let's do exactly that real quick. And then I'll give everyone time to try to do that. So the way that will be done on Linux, I think the Mac one might take you through a walkthrough installer as well. But the way that you would do that is I would actually grab it from, well, click it, download it. I can download it to my downloads, or you can download it from the command line. The way that you would download something like this from the command line is you would click the one that you want, which is 64-bit, and click copy link address. And then you can use wget or curl to get it from the command line. But actually, I would just, if I were you right now, if you're on Windows, you should be fine. If you're on Mac, I prefer you use Brew. I think Mac gives you an installer. No, Mac gives you this as well. So what you would do is click it, download it, see where it downloaded to. And then you can use your, I would tell you to use the command line, but I'm gonna keep away from some of that stuff since we didn't do a ton of Linux stuff in this course in particular. But what you can do is you can right click this and unzip it. I'm gonna click extract here. And it's gonna give you a folder. And so, right click, unzip, or you can use the command line to do it. The way that you would do it from the command line is you would go to where that file existed, which is my downloads, and unzip it. There is a I think there's a Terraform. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in here. I didn't realize how much we've downloaded here so far. So if I do LL, I'm not used to this keyboard anymore. Terraform, lowercase t. Yeah, so there's a zip file, and I would just basically type in unzip. Wow, I cannot type unzip and the name of this file, which is Terraform.zip. And what it would do is it would create this folder that it already created. So go ahead, and again, if you're on Windows, you should be able to just click through the installer. If you're on Mac, you should use Brew if you can, just to do brew install Terraform. That's the easiest way. It'll get it installed. Anyone else, this is how you have to do it. You have to unzip it. Once you unzip it, it will create a folder. I actually think it'll create, it'll show a binary here. So there's this Terraform binary, and you need to move it somewhere on your path. Every computer is different. This part's kind of hard, and this is why I'm saying tonight, focus on the concept and not necessarily the implementation. We're not going to spend too long doing this, but what I would do is to know where you can put this. I don't want to explain the path variable because that'll get super confusing here, but I want you to type in something like, if you're not sure where to put it, type in like which ls. Whoa, see, okay, this is another reason. Let's talk a little bit more about the reasons why I dislike ZSH. Why do I dislike ZSH? Because of things like this. It does not do what I needed to do, but that's fine. And I can find out exactly how to do it, but you can type in which ls, and I'm mostly doing this for the people who are using Macs right now. I'm assuming if you're using Linux, you probably know how to do this already, but you need to move this Terraform executable. You need to move it somewhere that is a part of your path. And so this one's in bin. I can move Terraform to bin, or I usually move mine to user local bin. I think, is that where I usually do it? If I do which Terraform, mine's just in bin. So in bin, so I can do move Terraform to /bin, and I'll overwrite it, and it'll allow me to use Terraform. But like I said, if you are on Mac or Windows, you should have been able to easily do this using Brew. or the installer in which I believe Windows will give you. So did you, hopefully you're able to get there. I'll give people a few minutes to get there. The way that you know that you did it right is you'll need to go to the command line, and you'll need to just type in, you might need to close down your no, you shouldn't, well, maybe if you're on Mac or Windows, you may need to close down your terminal, open one back up, so you can use command prompt on Windows or PowerShell, and you can just type in Terraform, and it should give you some information. So type in Terraform-version, excuse me, and it will give you a version here. So I'm running version 0.12.26. Do you recommend HashiCorp's Vault for secrets in your app? Great question. Yeah, I think it depends. I think HashiCorp Vault is a good tool. I think it is a good tool. I think its usefulness depends on the scale of your application as well as the environment that you're in. To be 100% honest, I think the setup of Vault can be a bit annoying, specifically in the AWS user space, because there are other options for this. There are some easier things to use like Parameter Store or Secrets Manager, which really is they are really equally as secure, but again, you put the word secret on something, people believe that it's more secure, but that's a deeper conversation. Yes, it is a good product. It is a great solution to managing secrets. For everyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, when you run an application or you're running services, lots of different services and things like that, and they need to talk to each other, a lot of times your applications need keys, they need passwords to log into databases, things like that. But when you're talking about manually configuring things, when you're talking about, not manually, we're talking about configuring things as code, you don't want to put these passwords inside of your code base. You don't want to have your passwords, just in these files that we're talking about. And so you need a way to be able to easily retrieve this information when things are running. You need a way to be able to manage passwords and retrieve them when you need them. And Vault allows you to do that, and there are a couple other things that allow you to do that. It is a good tool. I do recommend it depending on your setup, but it may be overkill. Vault, setting up Vault is not super straightforward, and so it may be overkill for your application. So yeah, is where you put your binary just preference? I put them in use local bin. Is it preference? So yes, it's part preference. It is part preference, and you can really add whatever directory you want to your path. But yeah, use local bin is usually where I put my stuff as well. Usually where I put it there. Yes, usually where I put it. AWS Secrets Manager, AWS Vault setup overhead is too much. I agree, Managed Chaos. That's all. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I think it's a little overkill. Ansible Vault really easy. Yeah, Ansible Vault is a lot easier. What's up, Sega Player? Thank you so much for the big raid. 53 people. What's up, everyone from Sega Player's channel? Let's give you a shout out here. Let's give you a shout out. Let me see if I can get to where I'm supposed to be. Welcome to Mastermind Academy. Tonight we're learning about infrastructure as code inside of AWS. We also learned about just a little bit about orchestration. So we're using orchestration of services. We're not doing container orchestration tonight. Orchestration of services, we talked about ElasticBeanstalk first. We set up an application and we set up an environment there. But what we are doing now is we're talking about infrastructure as code and its benefits, and we're diving into Terraform a little bit. We're just doing the quick Terraform quick start, and just going to run through it to kind of just see how it works, kind of understand what infrastructure as code is as we're learning about cloud computing. This is Horizons. This is an 8-week cloud computing course, so introduction to cloud computing with Amazon Web Services. Yeah, and so we're just kind of learning about, this is our apprentice level course. So this is the kind of level 1 course, and we'll be diving deeper in deeper courses. So that's what we're doing. So what's up, Raiders? How's everyone doing? Good to have you. How was your stream tonight, Sega Player? What were you doing? What were you doing tonight? Let me give you this shout out. Let's see if I can type this better. Sega Player. There we go. I need to get some automation set up for, I've seen, who does it? A Coding Guard and a couple other people do it, where when people from the live coding team automatically hop in, they let you know, lets the chat know. I think it's pretty important. to kind of just let people know, when you're in the chat. So I do appreciate it. Thanks for coming through. Now you're going to watch us have a little bit of fun with Terraform. Hopefully you should come through with us. Next, we're running cloud servers. See, a lot of overlap here. And we ended by learning C#.net. That's dope. That is excellent. So you basically did superior. You did everything that I tried to do. And a couple nights you did it in one night. You did it together. That's pretty dope. C# is, I'm coming around on C#. I'm coming around on .NET Framework as well. As someone who generally stayed away, for sure, I've seen some cool things be done with it, and I actually really like C#. I've done a little bit with C#. I actually really like C# a lot. We got desktop. I know there's a Pop OS with a Chromebook theme. Yeah. So, I'm actually running full Pop OS right now. I'm using a System 76 laptop, Mr. Salsa. This is a System 76 laptop. It is the Galago Pro. It's dope. I love this laptop is great. I was using a VM before, but I've had this for a while. It's not gonna lie, Pop OS is pretty darn nice. The way that it runs, again, the hardware, this computer hardware is not the best. People always ask me how I feel about my System 76 laptop. Hardware is not amazing. They don't make their own hardware. They grab Clevo and Sega laptops, but I'm not gonna lie, I've been using Linux on my own laptops for I've installed Linux on so many different pieces of hardware, and the experience, I don't know them, they do not sponsor me or anything. The experience that you get with Linux, like just the operation of things, is bar none the best that I've experienced. I've always had issues with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. I've actually almost never had a computer where I could connect multiple Bluetooth devices without like doing a lot and struggling with it. I got it. Bluetooth headphones, Bluetooth mouse, no problem. Just connected, never an issue. Reconnects whenever. Software wise, it's just it works. It's pretty impressive for a Linux machine, to be 100% honest. But yeah, it's pretty dope. We're in the new world now. .NET Core. I do know that. I know it runs on Linux for sure. I'm a huge Windows fan. I don't think y'all know I'm a big Windows fan now. I'm running Windows on my main desktop. This Linux laptop is going through a Windows desktop. I really like Windows nowadays. My other laptop is a X1 Carbon with Windows on it, and I do my development on there now, especially with WSL2. It's pretty dope, to be 100% honest with you. It's pretty cool. All right, so let's do it. Let's hop into it. But again, thank you so much for the raid, Sega Player. Good to see you. Welcome everyone from Sega Player stream. So now, after you get Terraform downloaded, the way that you can, again, confirm that it's working is simply to type in Terraform version. That's what we typed in. It'll tell you the version that you just downloaded and installed. So great. We got this here. Super nice. Now, again, what is Terraform? Terraform is this tool that's going to allow us to provision infrastructure. It's going to allow us to spin up cloud infrastructure. It's going to allow us to define what the infrastructure is that we want, and it's going to allow us to deploy it through that code. So let's run through what they have for us, and we'll run through really quick because, like I said, it does not actually take that long. So back to the installation docs. Verify, it tells you how you can verify your information, your installation, tells you how you can troubleshoot your installation. Really nice. So they allow you to do some tab completion stuff as well. Sure, not important right now at all. But again, if you're going to run through this, feel free to install that piece. It doesn't do anything bad. It only adds functionality. So it's nice. Once you've installed Terraform, you can provision an Nginx server in less than a minute using Docker on Mac, Linux, or Windows. So this is actually it seems like this has changed since the last time I did it. So we'll see. But we'll see. It says, now that you've installed Terraform, you can provision an Nginx server in less than a minute using Docker on Mac, Windows, or Linux. So someone asked me why we kept doing stuff with Nginx over and over again. A lot of people use Nginx as the example. One, instant feedback, instant gratification for installing a service and getting it to run. And Nginx is so integral, or web servers at least are so integral to most of the things that you're going to be doing. It's a good thing to be able to set up. So this is interesting. I'm not sure. This is a quick start tutorial. I'm not sure this is what we want to do. This is using Docker. Oh, okay. I didn't even read this properly. It says if you have Terraform and Docker installed on your local machine, start Docker Desktop. So this quick start tutorial is simply to allow us to do the things that we want to do in Terraform, we can actually do it via Docker. This is very interesting. One, I'm not surprised that you can do this. I definitely just didn't. I've never seen. It's very interesting. There are other tools that allow for what they're having you do here. Very interesting. We're not going to do this right now. So remember how I said Terraform is great because it can be extended to use different services, different providers to manage certain things. So it can use AWS. It has a provider for Azure. It has Google Cloud Platform. All the stuff that you want to do. You can do it. It looks like it has a provider for Docker as well, and that's what this quick start does. But I think this is the one that we want. So maybe this is what I should give you. Get started. Oh, it is this one. Oh, okay. No, it's not. Cool. Let me send you this because this is what we want instead. We want the one that says get started with AWS and not through Docker. But that's cool. Maybe one day we can go through that. Wasn't too bad. So I didn't see Terraform through CLI. Perfect. I'm glad. Nginx says it works if you do it correctly at 100. That is, again, it's so nice that instant gratification of, yo, it works, you did it, is really, really nice. Decades of running Apache. I love Nginx so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm from the same camp. I used Apache for I managed Apache for a long time. I ran Apache for a lot of things. Yeah, Nginx is just, it's a little bit easier to use. They both work well for what their intended purposes are. You know, I think nowadays Nginx has come pretty far where before Apache and Nginx really had their specific places. I think tech has come so far where I think they still do shine in their own right to what they're good at, but they work pretty much for all things. Okay, Apache's cool for dynamic content. Exactly. So that was I think it used to matter a lot more for the dynamic content versus static content. Yes, that is true. Nginx is great for proxies, which again is really good for the way that we kind of do things nowadays with, you know, service-oriented architecture and microservices and things like that. Like proxying, that ability to proxy is really nice as well. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do now. Now that we're in the right one, the right tutorial, we installed it. Now the next thing you can do after you install it, oh, there's a I don't know if that's a mosquito or a fly. Now there's this build infrastructure section. This is really nice. I really like Terraform's documentation. These videos did not used to be here, so this is really nice. And now I'm gonna go through it even faster because if you're having trouble keeping up, when you go through, and I think you'll learn a lot more actually, going through yourself and watching the video and watching them go through the things and trying to do some stuff and trying to do it yourself. So if you fall behind, don't sweat it. You can stay behind if you like don't stress to kind of do what we're doing. The goal is not to learn Terraform. I just want you to see it in action. The goal was to learn infrastructure, about what infrastructure as code does, and kind of see what it means when we do something with it. So we'll run through this, and they give you some prerequisites. They say, hey, make sure you have an AWS account, which we do. Make sure you have the AWS CLI installed, which we do. And it says make sure AWS credentials are configured locally. We've already done that as well. Again, the way that you can kind of confirm, you know, the first default thing you do, type in AWS S3 LS, and look at that. This does not work. Why doesn't this work? Because we've previously been using that VM for this stuff. I've actually rotated out my keys a lot since the last time we used this laptop for anything. So I'm glad I actually just checked that. Let me see something real quick. I don't want you all to see any of my stuff. So like we did the last few times. So you can't see my screen. I need to check something real quick. If not, I'm just gonna get set up. It's gonna take me no time at all. .aws. I just wanna see if this might be a credentialing problem. Yep, give me 1 second. I'm gonna get myself some new keys from AWS. We're already logged in, so that should be nice and easy. And remember, as you're going through this, when I start to say, you know, I'm going to get some new credentials, start to think about what that entails. What does it mean I'm getting new credentials? What credentials do I need to access AWS from programmatically from the command line? And what service do I need to go to get them? You know, a good little mental, you know, gymnastics there. So I'm gonna go in. I'm trying to say it out loud as I'm there. I'm gonna grab myself some new keys for my user, which is A Brooks And let's go ahead and get some more of these bad boys. And I'll go ahead, and this is the only computer that I'm going to be doing stuff from. So I'll delete this one. I'll create a new one. I'm going to go rogue, and I'm not even going to download it real quick. I'm only going to configure, because I'm actually going to rotate these out actually again after this to make sure my desktop has the same key, because I don't like to manage those two different keys. This way, new key, leave the region the same, AWS S3 LS, and let me clear the screen this time. I know last time I did not clear the screen, and when I went back, even though I did it with you not on here, you were able to immediately see my information. And so we're good to go now when I type in AWS S3 LS. My keys, simply all that happened to my keys was that we were using for this run, I rotate out my keys every like 2 or 3 months, and we've been trying to use a VM, because I have a giant Windows desktop sitting in front of me, super powerful, and so I was trying to use a VM just want to see if that experience was easier without having to use a separate laptop. But that presented some issues in itself. We only switched back to this laptop after, maybe like 2 streams ago. And so my keys on here were old, so no big deal. So now that AWS CLI is set up, that means let's actually go down here. And I just showed it to you again. I'll change it again. I got to change it again, because this is my administrator account. I did it again. I can't believe I did it again. Man, I do this a lot. I need a better way to manage secrets on stream, a much better way of managing secrets on stream. But luckily, just as fast, I went in and I already have new keys. I think I'm going in a lot faster than you all can type. And again, I trust you. I trust most of you. But I know there's some bad apples out there. Yep, I've done this. We do this. I did it with my email password last time. But no big deal. We're done. All right, fixed. The old one has been deleted. Nothing you can do about it. So if you try to steal from me, you lost your chance. You got to be quicker than that next time, okay? So let's see what we have here. So let's go back up to what our prereqs are. AWS configure. So our AWS CLI is configured. Now, write some configuration. So here's what they say. They say, all right, to work on Terraform, to use Terraform, we're going to set up some configuration here. And it says, our first configuration now is going to be to launch a single EC2 instance. This is going to be really nice. And I actually encourage all of you to, whenever you get to this, if you're not following along doing it now, I encourage you to go through this in your own time, because what we do right now will be reusable for the rest of this course, and you'll see me reusing it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'll use this to spin up some of the infrastructure that we need. But it says each configuration should be in its own directory. So create a directory for the new configuration. So they give you, you don't need to know all the Linux commands. They give you everything that you need to copy and paste and to go through everything that you want to do. What's up, Sana Renomi? Hello, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for the raid. I'm going to give all of your followers, all the people who came with you, your raiding party, I'm going to give them their chance to go through the ads that I'm sure they're going through right now. But welcome. Let me get you that shout out here. I appreciate the raid. SO _ appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming through. Hope you had a great stream tonight. Would you let us know what you were doing on stream tonight? Let us know how it went. Let us know what you were getting into. But welcome, Raiders. Welcome. Come on in. You're catching us actually at perfect timing. We are just about to start putting together some Terraform configuration to launch our own EC2 instances. We're going through the HashiCorp installation docs, the getting started documentation. So it's very accessible. So if you ever want to follow along, feel free. I'll share this in the chat again. But we're keeping it pretty simple. We're keeping it pretty simple. We're going to do the basics of Terraform with this. There's some web design things. Dope. That's great. I'll definitely have to check you out, because although I do work on web teams. I lead a team of application developers who build web applications. I'm not the best web developer. I'm getting a lot better. I'm learning a ton. It's definitely not my the thing that I'm pro at, but starting 100 days of code tomorrow, and web development is what I'm going to be focusing on for most of it. I'm going to be learning Rust throughout it as well, but I'm actually going to be diving heavily into web development. I'm actually going to spend the first 20 days building an app that's going to be usable by everyone. But yeah, web design is pretty dope. Mostly Discord, bot programming, and JS. Pretty dope. I do know I know JavaScript pretty well. Well, I wouldn't say pretty well. I am very comfortable with JavaScript. That does not mean I know it very well, but I'm pretty comfortable with JavaScript. But what's up, everyone from Sounders channel? Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for the raid. Good to have you. Really good to have you. We're just a big happy family over here. So, like I said, Terraform gives you everything that you need to copy and paste. So the first thing they want us to do is to create our own directory. So we can copy and paste as is. So this is going to create a directory for us called Learn Terraform AWS Instance. And let's head over into our terminal, and let's I don't want it right here in my downloads. I'm going to put it in whoa, my space bar. There we go. Again, for everyone who's new, there's been a fair amount of raids tonight. Everyone who's new, you'll see me. I'm a terrible typist, awful typist, really bad at it. But the reason why I'm making even more mistakes than usual is this right here is my main computer keyboard. This is it. It's a 60% build. See, no arrows, no function keys. I was trying to learn how to be a better typist. Again, I don't know, Prime, if you're still on, but you were one of the reasons why. Well, you were one of the reasons I wanted to get better at typing, but I have been looking into custom keyboards for a long time. So you gave me a reason to spend my money, which was great. I got to rationalize it for a number of reasons, but I've been practicing on this and getting better. And this keyboard actually has a pretty unique keyboard layout, but now I moved back to my laptop for the streams and it does not have the same layout. So I was already in this interim phase between learning two different layouts, and now I'm on another layout, and now I mess up all the time. So just bear with me. And again, fingers are pretty fat as well, so fat finger mistakes happen pretty often. So I'm gonna go into my documents, and I'm gonna go into mastermind, and you can do this wherever you want. You can copy their commands wherever you want. It's gonna make its own directory, so it should be isolated from the rest of your stuff, but I'm just gonna put mine in I don't think I have a Horizons folder here, so I'm gonna make a directory called Horizons. That's fine. And now I'm going to start to copy. I'm going to start to copy what they have. Ampro 2. No. This is not an Ampro 2. This is a completely custom build. Yes, a custom build. This is actually the KBD fans Tofu. It's a Tofu 60% case. Kind of heavy actually. JTK Arctic keycaps. These are which are these? These are the Zelios V2s, 67 grams. And it's a hot swap board. It's a KBD fans hot swap board because I don't know how to solder, and I was too scared. Sometimes you can't face your fears, and that was one of the times I couldn't face my fears. But I will be soldering my next one that I built. But yeah. Clean keys, the microwave steam bag. Went poorly. That sounds like it might have went poorly. How come you don't connect the keyboard to your laptop? Space, and because I'm using my computer is like my main battle station for managing the stream and stuff. So it still needs the keyboard attached to it, so I can still interact there. Yeah, and just space on my desk, to be 100% honest. Yeah, it looks pretty easy, but I don't know. It looks pretty easy. I wanted to, yeah, I will definitely be trying it. The Micro Center next to us has like the good soldering irons. I'm gonna get a pretty good one because I imagine I'm gonna be building a couple of keyboards in my future. But yeah, I will. I'll definitely check it out. You'll know how it goes when I actually do it. Auto hotkey for your laptop can make custom key mappings. Yeah, so QMK, I like QMK a lot. Yeah, I might check it out. It is not so much the key mappings as much as it is the spacing of the keys. Yeah, that one's super interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But okay, now let's get back to it. I'm sorry for sidetracking everyone. Let's go through and copy exactly what they have. So this is the very first thing they have about write configuration. So underneath write configuration, let's go ahead and let's start copying and pasting, and we'll talk through what's happening when we do it. So first thing is it's going to make a directory for us called learn Terraform AWS instance. So let's go ahead and let's do that. I'm going to paste in what we copied, and what it does is it makes a directory for us. And if you type in ls, you should see a new directory here that you can use. And let's go ahead and actually, I'm not even going to move into it. I'm going to do exactly what they say, because again, they give you everything that you need. Now we need to move into that directory. So copy and paste that, which is cd learn. What's up, all the follows? Thank you so much. What's that? Fate of Reality 101. Thank you so much. Binary Sloth. Good to have you. Casserus. Welcome. A Purple Lotus. Welcome. Sana. Thank you so much for not only the raid, but also the follow. Master Salsa. Good to have you. Sega Player. Thank you so much for the raid as well. And I think I got everyone from this. X3 M Linux. Good to have you. Thank you all so much for following. Good to have you. Okay, the next command they had was cd learn Terraform. So now with that cd command, we learned a little bit of Linux here. That stands for change directory. So we created a folder called learn Terraform AWS, and we moved into that folder. So that's where we are now. Create a file. Now we're going to create a file for the configuration code. So all we did now, we haven't done anything Terraform related. We made a folder on our computer and we moved into it. Now we need to create a file that we can write our configuration code in. So now we're actually starting the process of writing the code. And so they have touch example.tf. I think we learned here that touch is the command to make an empty file, and all Terraform files, or the Terraform files that you're going to need to use, are going to end in .tf. That's the file type, .tf, .terraform. So we're going to make example.tf. You can call it whatever you want, but we'll just copy exactly what they have. So we'll touch example.tf. It's going to make an empty file, a 0-byte file called example.tf for us to work on. All right. So once we did that, now that we have a file that we can work on, it says paste the configuration below into example.tf and save it. Terraform loads all files in the working directory that end in TF. So Terraform will load up every file in here that ends in TF, but they say, hey, here's the code I want you to copy, and I want you to copy it in that file. So however you want to open this file, feel free to open it. If you want to open up VS Code and then open it from VS Code, great. If you have it set up, you can type in code example.tf and it will open up VS Code. It'll open up this file in VS Code. So you could do that. That might not work by default on Macs. I know it'll work on Windows and it should work on Linux by default, maybe not on Macs. But open up this file. If you couldn't do that, you can just open up VS Code and go to File, Open File, and then find wherever it is that you just created that file and go ahead and open it up. And remember, nothing should be inside of it because it is empty, completely empty. Can we work on the overlay for the raids one night? Yeah, we can. I'm just not we should, because all the cool overlays for raids and stuff are pretty, I like them a lot. It just might take us much more than one night, to be 100% honest, for me at least. I got a lot to do to learn how to properly develop against Twitch. I'm always surprised at how good people are at that. Do you know anything about animating generic 3D models? I do not. I do not, Blackwater. I don't know anything about that. Happy to discover your channel. Again, glad you did. Thank you so much. Off to bed. Good night. Good night, Sana. Appreciate you coming through. Thank you so much for the raid. Get out of here. Go get some rest. I will definitely see you on later. Okay. Now, we created the file. We copied this stuff right here. Go ahead and paste it on in. Paste it on in. And you get it here. And so this is kind of gross. I really like colors. I really like colorful things, but it's not going to show me anything colorful. Why? Because right now it doesn't know what to do with it. But what you could do is, if you're using VS Code, which you probably are, you can go over to this little extensions tab if you want. This is extra, and type in Terraform. When we type in Terraform, it's going to give you the first one that pops up is the popular one that people use, and you click install. And what this will do is this will give you the tools to have syntax highlighting and linting and formatting and all this stuff for Terraform code. And so just that easy. If we go back to our code, we now have some color coded things. And again, the color coding is nice, just a visual representation of what happens. You would be surprised at how powerful color coding works, or how powerful it is for our brains and the way that our brains work. It's actually really nice. And as you kind of get deeper into your career in programming and configuration, especially, the color coding really helps you to identify things. So we have not written any code, but we've copied code, and it's great. We control save, and it's nice. Let's look at the code that let's look at the code and see if we can understand what's in it before we go farther. So first thing it has up here, it says provider. Provider says AWS. So again, we might not know what a provider is. What we can do is we can deduce, all right, AWS, we know we're using AWS. That seems okay. Like, that seems fine. We're using AWS. It seems that, that might be the place that's telling this that it can use AWS. And that's exactly what it is. These providers can be different things. Again, remember I said Terraform works with other things like Azure, or even we just saw with Docker. And so the provider specifies which tools and APIs to use to connect to a certain thing. So it just tells the file that, hey, we're gonna be using AWS for this. And then we have profile here equals default. And we may not know what that is, but we didn't learn about AWS profiles, but we learned about configuring our AWS accounts. And it says region, US East 1. So we learned about regions. And we learned about, those geographic places around the world that, where there are clusters of data centers, and US East 1 being one of the regions. So that's something that we've seen before. So we can say, okay, that looks very AWS-y. This AWS profile, it just has to do with when we did that configuration of the AWS CLI. By default, your profile is the default profile. That's what it's called. But what would happen if you had, let's say I had, from this computer, let's say I work on my own personal AWS account, which is the mastermind one, but maybe I also work on my work account. Maybe my work has two accounts. Maybe it has a development account and a production account. How do I manage when I do an AWS S3 LS? Like, how do I know, how can I tell my computer which one to use without, am I gonna have to change the credentials every time? No, you can set up these things called profiles, named profiles that you can use to determine which credentials you're using. By default, it's default. So you can just leave that there. So that's what this block here says. It says, hey, use AWS, the AWS provider, use my default credentials, and you set the region equal to US East 1. So it's just a little bit of setup there. But take a look at this right here. The resource, there's a whole new little block. It's specified by a little orange piece. What says resource? AWS instance example. So it sounds like, okay, AWS instance, you might say, okay, like we know that what we're doing is trying to set up an EC2 instance. So all right, that sounds like we're right. AMI, we know what AMIs are, and each AMI, even each different type of AMI has this AMI ID. It has an AMI ID in here, and has an instance type, T2 micro. We learned about instance classes and instance types, and we have that here. So we've got some information that kind of describes that we want an instance, and kind of how do we want that instance? We want it using this AMI, this machine image. So this might be Ubuntu, it might be Amazon Linux, who knows? We don't know yet, but we can check and see. And they want the size of this to be T2 micro. So you should automatically be thinking, okay, well, if that's how it's set up now, if we wanted to be T2 large or something, you could just change this to be like T2 large, and that would then define what you actually wanted. So we'll change this back to micro. And again, we're not going to change anything for now, but it's just good to kind of look at the code for a little bit and see what it looks like. Now, you might say, how do you know what to write for the code? Again, that's all in the documentation. I'll show you how to find that stuff. Not a big deal, but you can see that these little blocks of code can start to represent what type of resources Amazon and AWS you want. So maybe we'll get through a little bit later and we'll spin up like an S3 bucket or something and see how similarly it looks. And so as you go through, they tell you what these things are, but obviously, well, I mean, why are we here if I just read off all this stuff? I had to give you a little bit about it before we went through, but it'll tell you about the provider. It's responsible for creating and managing resources, so it's going to be the one that you want to use there. And then the resources are going to be the types of cloud resources that we want to spin up using this. Now we can skip through those two pieces. Those are just kind of explaining what we want to do. But now it says initialize the directory. So now pasting in that code that we just pasted in was the first part, because that was defining the code. That's the machine readable definition file. That's the thing that defines what we want, what resources we want. And now we need to initialize the directory. When you create a new configuration, so this is a new configuration, or check out an existing configuration from version control. So we didn't talk about this being a benefit, but because this is code, that means you can version control your stuff. You can version control files. Because it's code, you can stick this into GitHub and have a centralized place for people to be able to grab this, for you to be able to work on it, for you to know the history of it, which is really nice. But the first thing you need to do is initialize the directory with Terraform init. Great. Terraform uses a plugin-based architecture to support hundreds of infrastructure and services providers. Initializing a configuration directory downloads and installs providers using the configuration. So what it's going to do is, right now we've only installed Terraform, but for Terraform to work with AWS, it needs to download the actual plugin for the provider, which is AWS. And what this Terraform init command will do is make sure that we have that. We may already have it locally, but Terraform init will do that. And so you can copy this and it'll start to run through and do some stuff. So let's take Terraform init, then let's paste it into, let's put this even lower, and let's Terraform init. And we see similar output, initializing the backend, initializing provider plugins, and it gives us some information. And like I said, green is usually good. So it lets us know it's been successfully initialized, tells us what version it is. And now it says, now you can go ahead and you can start to do some stuff in here. So super nice. Initialize, we kind of got the introductory pieces out of the way. Now format and validate the configuration. This is a nice piece. Now this is some features that come out of that. This is written in Go. Go has the same thing. Actual Tom, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much. First off, you are raider number like 4 for the night. I appreciate you all. Shout out to Actual Tom once again. I really need to get that live coder thing up and running. Actual_Tom. Your name is a lot easier to type than other people's names. Thank you so much. All of Actual Tom's raiding party, welcome. You are right on time. We are about to deploy our first bits of infrastructure. We're learning about infrastructure as code tonight with Terraform. Before we learned about, earlier tonight, we learned about ElasticBeanstalk. But we're learning how to use Terraform to, we're learning about how to provision infrastructure using code. We're learning how to define infrastructure in machine readable files and to deploy that infrastructure. And so we are running through Terraform's walkthrough of this. So we're not doing anything ourselves yet. Well, we are doing things ourselves. We're copying and pasting right now. We'll extend this in a little bit to do some stuff on our own, but we're kind of just learning how it works really quick. So you caught us at a good time. So you can format and you can validate the configuration. So everyone kind of has their own style for writing things. Some people use tabs and spaces and stuff, and they'll set up their configuration a certain way. The thing that we're writing, you might say, okay, if this is code, what coding language are we writing in? So the coding language that we're writing in is actually called HCL. It's a domain specific language created specifically for this. It's not like Python or anything like that. It is HashiCorp language. That's what it is. It's something that they developed for this. A lot of these tools, a lot of these infrastructure as code tools have their own domain specific language that they use. And again, that is just a language that's used to use this tool. And so that's what we're writing here. That's the code that we're writing here. And when you're writing that, you might want to validate it. You might want to format it in a certain way. And so what we can do is we can run, where is it at? This Terraform FMT. And so if you're familiar with Go, you've probably seen this before, but you can type in Terraform FMT. And what it'll do is it'll go through and it'll format your code. So watch this. If I do something that's a little weird, and so like this isn't incorrect, but like let's say I tab that out and I tab this out a little bit and I save this, take a look at it now. I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna run Terraform FMT. It gives me some output this time. The first time it didn't give me any output. It does this time. And what that output says is, it says, hey, when you ran Terraform format, I found some things that I believed weren't formatting correctly, and I made them into a consistent format, for readability, for ease of use. And this is the file that it did it in. This is the file that we were editing. And if we go back down, check out the changes that we did, those tabs that we put in, they're no longer there. So that format, just like in Go, it will format your code so that your code is uniform, which is really, I can't tell you how great this is for configuration files in particular, like things where you're configuring things. I find this to be really great. It does some cool things like lining up these equal signs, which is surprisingly nice, but a nice little thing. It's super cool. It's super cool. And then you can do Terraform validate. So when you are defining what you want, if you're not sure what you have, if what you have is proper, you can type in Terraform validate and it'll tell you if your configuration is valid. And so if we were to make our configuration invalid, and I'm not really sure how I could do that, but maybe if I put a comma here or something, maybe that'll make it invalid. And when I ran Terraform validate, it says, hey, it gives me the exact error. Unexpected comma after argument. It tells me on line 7, I see that you have a comma here. Argument definitions must be separated by new lines, not commas. An argument definition must end with a new line. I have to say, we should create some type of tech awards series, and Terraform should get the award for most amazing errors of all time, most descriptive errors of all time. It is super duper nice. You usually don't get that out of tools. So you remove that, and this is why people love Terraform so much. Cloudformation, if anyone from AWS is watching, Cloudformation has the worst error codes on the planet. It's terrible. Okay, it's not terrible, but you're gonna easily see how, even if this confuses you, even if you're looking at these blocks of code and you're like, oh, that looks like a lot to me, curly brace, like if you're just not used to it, wait till we get into on Wednesday when we do Cloudformation. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is like, this looks like plain English. It's so much simpler. But again, context is everything. Once we contextualize it against Cloudformation, it'll feel a lot better. Actual error may be somewhere else in the file. That's what Cloudformation will give you. That's what it'll give you. Okay, so validate, make sure we're still good. It's valid, really nice. Okay. Now it says create infrastructure. In the same directory as the example.tf file you created, run Terraform apply. You should see output similar to the one shown below. Yeah, basically blah, blah, blah. They tell you, there's a note here. We'll talk about that in a second. So Terraform apply is the command that we're gonna do. Now, if you're a Terraform OG, Terraform used to do 2 pieces, and you can still do them, not a big deal, but now the apply command does them both. It runs 2 commands. It runs a Terraform plan and a Terraform apply. So I'm gonna just run Terraform apply because that's the new way to do it. And it's gonna run through and it's gonna give me some information. All right, and this is the probably biggest, this is one of the big, like, great things about infrastructure as code. So let's take a look at all the stuff that it gave us. It says an execution plan has been generated and is shown below. Resources actions are indicated with the following symbols. Create. Terraform will perform the following actions. And so what this does is when you type in apply, it runs a Terraform plan. And what a plan does is it says, all right, excuse me, I'm going to take a look at the file that you wrote, the configuration file that you wrote. I'm going to take a look at it. And then I'm going to check that against what I know about your AWS environment. And so we've never done anything with Terraform in our AWS environment. So there's nothing there. It's checking a state file. We're not going to worry about all that tonight. Just know it's checking something that says, hey, inside of your AWS environment, Terraform has done these things. And what it's going to do is it's going to check the differences between that file that you defined and what is in AWS already. And so when it does that, and this is the first time we're running it, it says, hey, it says you want an instance, but nothing, like none of the stuff is created. So I'm going to create all these things. So AWS instance.example will be created, and it's going to create all of these things. It's going to add all of these things as a part of the EC2 instance, because these are all things that are a part of that. What's good about this is not only is this telling you exactly what it's going to create, it's also giving you some information about the things that you can define for your EC2 instance. So these are all different things that I can define. So we defined an AMI, so that AMI is here. And so some things it says, no, you'll know these things after the apply because they'll get created. But you can define certain things in here. Instance type, which we did, EC2 micro. So we can actually do a lot of these things. So key name's one of them. And so maybe we want to define a key name so that we can log into it. And so let's do that really quick. Oh, actually, nope. Let's go ahead and let's let this spin up first. So it'll tell you everything that's going to happen, everything that's going to change. I'm going to add one to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. Do you want to perform these actions? Yes, I do. And now it's going to go through and it's creating this. We can also go right back on up to our AWS environment. And if I go into EC2 right now, we will see that there is in fact an instance spinning up right now as we speak, which is this one. It's pending right now. A T2 micro spinning up as we speak. So it's doing this, it'll run through and it will go ahead and it'll keep running until it's created. It'll let us know once it's good to go, which is really nice. So first you should apply complete resources, 1 added, 0 changed, 0 destroyed. And now we do in fact have an instance right here. And I didn't give it a name, but it's up, it's running really nice. We have an instance that we could log into if we had the right key, but just that easy, we were able to spin up a resource. This can be done with all AWS resources. You can define them. You define them in here in a file. You say, hey, I want an IAM user with this name, with this attached to these policies. So you can define those things and you run Terraform apply and it goes ahead and it makes sure those things are provisioned for you. So really nice. Infrastructure as code. We codified it. We said we want an EC2 instance. Give us an EC2 instance with using this AMI and of this size, and it did in fact, it gave it to us. Really, really easy. So let's keep running through this because there's a lot of other cool things you can do with it. So it applies really good, really nice. Inspect state. So state is probably the most important part of this right now. I said we weren't going to dive too far in this, but just know that there's a state file that gets kept in here, and the state just tells Terraform what is the current state of your AWS environment, what is currently deployed, what's set up. And so if you run Terraform show, it'll tell you what the current state is. It'll tell you information about what's deployed using Terraform. And so if I type in Terraform show, it gives me all the information about this EC2 instance right here. If I had more, it would give me more, but it gives me all that stuff, the ARN, all the other stuff that I need about this current thing. So that's nice. Don't need to worry about managing state right now. Next steps. Basically in here, they give you a couple different options to kind of dive deeper into the stuff that we just did. Not super important right now. Next is going to be changes to the infrastructure. I want you to see what it's like when you change the infrastructure. And so this is the same thing they have here. And basically what they're going to tell us to do in the configuration is to change something in it. And so let's modify the AMI of our instance. So edit AWS example under resources. So they're going to give us a new AMI ID. So I'll copy this. And I'll go down and I'll change it here. I'll change the AMI ID. So now instead of booting off of the AMI that it booted off of before, it has a new underlying AMI, and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to run Terraform apply again. And so when I run the Terraform apply, remember the first thing it's going to do is it's going to do a plan to see what needs to change. And this is you're going to see a lot of differences here. This time it says this example must be replaced, and it replaces in red, and it has these little things here. The little squigglies will show you the things that are going to change. Minus will be things that are deleted, and plus is things that are going to be added. And so you can see it's very like there's a bunch of stuff in here. Not important that you see all that stuff right now, but notice it says one to add, one to destroy. So some changes, it's important to know that some changes inside of in Terraform or inside of AWS period, they can't be changed in place. There are two different types of changes. You can do an in place change, and you can do changes that require for you to reprovision the resource, and this is one of them. Why would an AMI require a full resource reprovision? Because again, you're booting, the AMI is used the instance is based off of the AMI. So if you change the underlying base image, you have to deploy a new one. You can't you can't just update the current one. You got to deploy a brand new one. So if I do this, it's actually going to go through and it's going to destroy the one we just created and spin up a new one. It's going to tell us all the things that are happening now. Right after this is done, we'll go through and we'll do a change that does not require a destroy. We'll do one that can be updated in place. But see how it happens kind of automatic. I don't need to worry about anything. I don't have to do it manually. I don't have to click through all those things to get a new instance. It's doing it all for me, and I can just kind of let it run in the background. Really nice. I think they talk about that down here about things that require, you know, big destroys and things that don't. But it's also something that you'll start to learn as you go through, like what things, it'll start to make sense as you get more familiar with the different resources, with the different pieces. It'll start to make sense about what requires destruction and what can be done in place. And so it's just that fast, you know. We have this, and it's just one's destroyed and one's not. Now, up here, if we refresh, we'll probably have another one. This is probably the one that just spun up. Notice how it doesn't have a name. It does not have a name here. So maybe let's do one. Let's do a change to give it a name, to give it a tag. So the name here is actually just a tag. That's metadata. But a tag might help. And so this is not a part of the workflow. But maybe we want to go to, maybe we want to say, hey, Terraform EC2, EC2. I want to give my instance a name, so I want to say instance name, and I can Google something like that and say, all right, how do I do this? And it's gonna, usually if you type in Terraform, a service, and what you want to do, it's going to take you to the Terraform docs. The Terraform docs are pretty nice, and it gives you some examples of what you can do and what you can't do. And so we can see here some of the different things that we can do. And I already know, like I already know this, but you may not know this. But I mean, well, it may be harder for you to find. But in here, technical documentation is hard to learn how to parse. It takes a while to get to the point where you can hop into some documentation and find out the information you need. But once you start to pick it up, it gets a lot easier to do with whatever technical documentation you need. But right here, I know that name, to get the name on the server, I know that it's a tag. I know that. And so what you can do is you can add some tags here. And so I'm going to copy this right here, and I'm going to add it to our code. And I'm going to copy this. Hold on. What's up, Ancient Astro Guy? Welcome to the channel. Good to have you. Thank you so much for the follow. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to add this to our code. I'm going to paste this in. And I don't want it to be called Hello World. I want it to be called Terraform Web Server. How about that? All right, so I added a new bit of code here. I don't know if it's going to work. What are some things I can do to kind of at least give me some confidence? I can do two things. I can run Terraform format to make sure that it's formatted properly, and I can run Terraform validate to make sure that my configuration is valid. And look at that, I have valid Terraform configuration. You know, really good configuration there. And so now let's deploy this again. And I'm gonna apply this again. And it's gonna run through, it's gonna run a plan. It's gonna tell me, hey, let me see what has to change to get your infrastructure in the state that you want it to be in. And look how this time it says 0 to add, 0 to destroy, but 1 change. And look, everything else stays the same. Nothing else changes except for the tag. A tag gets added of Terraform web server. That's the only thing that needs to change. It's only going to apply the deltas to get it to where you need it to be. And if I type in yes, we'll let that run. That'll happen really fast. It should happen pretty quick. That was really quick. And if I go back into here and let me bring this down and I refresh this in our EC2 instances, what do we have? If I go down, look at that Terraform web server. We have now made another change, and that's really, it was easy to do because I knew exactly where to go. But what you can start to see is you start to define what you want via code. Now it takes a while to figure out how to do this effectively, but this is how people are managing their things. It's really easy to do it this way. It's really nice. Prime sent you, what's up, Moro? Awesome. I told you, Prime's a man. Welcome to the channel. So good to have you. Glad you're here with us today while we're learning a little bit of Terraform. So tags are in resource. Yes, tags are inside of this resource. So tags are generally a thing you can do with most of the resources inside of AWS. And yes, they will be inside of you will tag that resource. So really all the things that you can do in the console, so like all different things you can do here, there's for 99.9% of the things, there's a way in Terraform, and there's a way to do it via code. There's something that maps to what this thing is, and for name is a tag. And if we were to go through this launch instance, that's where we see it. So because of that, you can define, all right, we defined our AMI, you can define all these things, the size, the class, everything that's here, the network, the subnet, the auto assigning public IP, all of these things are things that I could set up. It gives some default values by default, but I can give it an IAM role. All these things I can set up, and the way that I would know how to do that is by searching through this documentation here. Unfortunately, that's the way you find out. Instance type, key name. So if I want to give it a key, to give it our key, that's how I would do it. I would set up our key pair name, which I might do in a second. But yeah, there's all these options in here that we can put in and we can configure so that when our server comes up, it's exactly how we want it to be. And again, that's the goal. That's the goal here. And then with the last couple minutes, let's look at, we can spin up things easily, but we can also get rid of them pretty easily. So this is where Terraform kind of gets nice. And I use Terraform in this manner a fair amount. You can, once we've defined this, if I know I have a web server that has these things, or I can set up this EC2 instance how I want it. When I'm done with it, I can destroy it. If I would like, I can destroy it. So simply go type in Terraform, destroy. And it'll go through all the .tf files you have right here. And it'll let you know what it's going to do. It says, hey, you sure you want to destroy all this stuff? Yes, I'm sure. And it'll get rid of it for me. But remember what I said about infrastructure as code. Because we're codifying it, because we're defining what we want in a file, now there's a consistent way to reuse this. There's a consistent way to redeploy this if I want. So as soon as this is destroyed, if I wanted, I could spin this right back up. I could also use this to spin up multiple servers. So simply with this, if I go back to here, well, I think there's a thing for anything. I could actually add a count to this, and I could spin up 10 servers simply by providing a count that says I want 10 of these. So there's just a number of paradigms with tools like this to do whatever it is that you want to do. And now if I go back into here, we no longer will have a Terraform. We no longer have a Terraform. Whoa, that should be, oh, it's terminated. Yeah, it's here. It's still here, but it is in the terminated state. We have destroyed it. It is gone. And like I said, we could use this code to redeploy using a Terraform apply. If we wanted to spin up, Terraform apply it. Want to destroy it, Terraform destroy it. So again, use that really easily. And now you can also do things. Let me go back up really quick so you can see kind of what it's like when you get into different services. But maybe I want scroll down. Maybe I want to grab an S3 bucket. And the way that I can do an S3 bucket is I can do a resource. Oh, that's Route 53 record. Whoops, what did I click on? Oh, as a data source. Hold on. Whoops. Not a. So yeah, it can get a little annoying. Resource, not the data type. So a bucket, the way that we could set up a bucket is this right here. So I can say resource. The resource that I would like is an AWS S3 bucket called this, or that. Well, so this is a Terraform thing, but this is the name of the bucket. So whatever I want the bucket name to be will be right here. You can set up your own ACLs. I can give it some tags, and this I could deploy this, and it will give me an S3 bucket. The way that we did static web hosting before, all that manual stuff, you can fix all of that by just doing this. You can throw this into a Terraform file, deploy it, and you can get the same functionality. Again, you can codify what we have done manually, and you can do it consistently, repeatably, which is really nice. Now, I would not use Terraform for any type of thing that holds data like an S3 bucket. I wouldn't necessarily, like, one, I don't recommend you spin up a bucket and destroy it. The bucket doesn't cost you any money anyway, and you can lose that bucket name. But it's something that you can do. You can use this to manage any of the pieces of AWS, and it's really, really nice. So that's it. That is it. So wait, I can use it to deploy static sites too? Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. You can use it to get your static site out there. It actually goes deeper than just the infrastructure provisioning. Remember we did some stuff with that user data? Remember how we got Nginx installed with that user data? You could put some user data and stuff in there too if you wanted to set up a web server. So if I go back up to EC2, and is data sources, resources, all the way down. Whoops. Go up. Hold on. If I were, so in here, somewhere in here, it'll tell us how we can do, how we can set up some user data. And what we would do is I could actually set up some user data that says, hey, update the server and install Nginx and start Nginx every time this runs as a part of my EC2 resource. And that could fully define what a web server looks like for me, which is super nice. But yes, you can use Terraform to do a lot of that stuff. There's some blurred lines between this and a configuration management tool. There is some other setup that Terraform will allow you to do. Same thing for Cloudformation. There's a little bit of setup it'll allow you to do to configure the software on the server as well. But yeah, you can use this to manage any resource you would like in AWS. Users, groups, roles that we learned at IAM. You can manage all your IAM permissions and stuff there, create all that stuff. All the stuff you can do is really nice. It is really nice. Now, just a segue, when we get to Wednesday, Cloudformation does the same thing. But Cloudformation is specific to AWS, and it's written differently. It's written using a markup language called YAML, which stands for yet another markup language. It's a superset of JSON. You can use JSON as well, but we'll talk about that when we get there. But just wanted to get you kind of introduced to infrastructure as code. Once you get you introduced to what that kind of looks like, the tangible takeaways for tonight. One, ElasticBeanstalk is a managed applications service from AWS. You bring your code, basically, you give your code off to Amazon, and they determine what to do with it. You tell them what runtimes and things you want, and they will set things up for you. They will set up your they'll set up buckets and server EC2 instances to be able to run your code properly, and they will handle the scaling underneath and everything. So easy way to deploy an application to get your workflow kind of started. Pretty easy to do. But we also learned about infrastructure as code. We learned that the management of your web resources can be done through machine readable definition files, so you can define what you want. We define what you want. I wanted to talk about the difference between imperative and declarative, but we don't need to do that here. We can actually do that. We'll do that tomorrow, or on Wednesday, I mean. But you can define the resources that you would want in the cloud, the way that you want them set up, and you write these machine readable files, and you use a tool like Terraform to deploy them, and those resources will be provisioned for you. We talked about a couple different types of them. We talked about some being for infrastructure provisioning versus like setting up and managing your servers as well. We also learned there are different types of infrastructure provisioners. We learned that the reason why they're so great is, one, it creates some documentation. So now, if I'm new to a company, I can go to their repo that has their infrastructure in it. I can say, oh, okay, they're using AWS. I can see that they're, in Virginia, Northern Virginia, they're in the US East 1 region. I can see that they have an example server set using this AMI, and I can go look in Amazon to see what AMI this is. So I can say, oh great, they're using Ubuntu. Oh great, they're using Amazon Linux, and these are the sizes, and I can start to see the name tags and how they're doing those things. And again, it does, these tools do have programming logic in them, so you can do really cool things like loops. You can do things like string interpolation and concatenation and stuff to create kind of some dynamic infrastructure. So we'll talk about that another time as well. But yeah, just learn that you can create these machine readable definition files, deploy them, and you'll get what you want. They're really good for consistency. They're good for having documentation. They're reusable, which is really nice as well. Yeah, it's pretty dope. It is the way that people are managing their cloud infrastructures right now. I feel like this is, will you cover Kubernetes? Not in this course. We have covered Kubernetes. Check out my YouTube. There's some stuff there. We will cover Kubernetes in the, probably more seriously, we'll cover Kubernetes in pipelines, which is our Saturday sessions. But the Kubernetes AKS, Amazon's Kubernetes service, will be in the advanced portion of this course. So we're doing the beginners one right now. We'll do an intermediate one that'll take 8 weeks, and then the advanced one. So it'll be later this year, or like going into next, it'll be later. I think it starts later this year. I think that's how the timetable works. Like towards the end of the year, maybe like end of mid October or something like that. So we will cover Kubernetes. There will actually probably be there probably will be at some point a dedicated Kubernetes course, like a dedicated containers course, to be 100% honest. I can go spin up Kades with Terraform instead of Cloudformation. Yes, you can spin up Kubernetes with Terraform instead of Cloudformation. Yes, that is true. The one we'll get there Wednesday, but one of the key functions that Terraform has, that Cloudformation has over Terraform is AWS comes out with new services fairly often, and what that means is, generally, this is not always true, but generally that means that Cloudformation will get support for that new service first, and Terraform may lag behind a little bit. So that's kind of the one benefit of Cloudformation, is that you may get early adoption of new services, but how often are you picking up new services immediately? Anyway, I don't know, but yes, you can in fact do that. But that's it for tonight. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that a little bit. If that was a lot, it's okay. Run through the setup process by yourself. Try at least. It's not important in this course that like Terraform's not going to be on the exam. Terraform is not incredibly important that you do not need to be a pro at Terraform, but just kind of understanding what it does, I think is going to be important for anyone dealing with the cloud and anyone wanting to do anything with the cloud. Just adding new things to your knowledgeable tool belt. I'm telling you all, I talked to someone earlier about this, is how far you can actually make it. I know a lot of technical of non-technical executives who like, this is Like they need to know this, they need to know what it does. And because they've picked up over the years what things do and what problems they solve, they get paid a lot of money because they can help vouch for problems. They can help solve problems without even ever having to touch them, by understanding the way that these things work together. I think people underestimate the value of understanding an ecosystem, understanding, you know, what's available. So that's it for tonight. Excellent stream. I'm very glad. All the raids, you know, is a great way to start off our week. I'm super happy about that. Everyone who's in pipelines, I'm gonna work. You know, a lot going on. I'm sorry about Saturday. I will figure out how to either replace that or I'm gonna figure out what we're gonna do with that. But I did put it. There's maybe 4 or 5 resources in the Google Classroom. So check those out. Those were covering service-oriented architecture, microservices, stuff like that, which are both simple and very complex topics at the same time. So we will figure that stuff out in the future. But that's it for tonight. Thank you, everyone. Who are we gonna raid this evening? Let's see. Twitch. Oh, everyone who's in Decoded or everyone who just wants to work on themselves. We are starting 100 Days of Code tomorrow. More information will be tomorrow on Decoded. Not a big deal. I'm gonna put some stuff out on Instagram and Twitter as well about it as well. I have a repo for it as well that I'm gonna share. But just you know, a time for us to actively do our best to start to dive into the things that we're learning and committing to, you know, work on our craft a little bit. Excuse me. I'll talk about the stuff that I'll tell you a little bit tomorrow about what I'm going to be planning on doing over the next 100 days. But do your best. You know, do your best. You don't have to commit to this, but I would highly recommend everyone commit to doing something for, or at least trying to commit to something for that time period. You know, even if we can be flexible as well. You know, the goal is to do an hour a day for 100 days. If you can't, you know, if you're busy and you can't do something one day, you know, Saturday morning, you know, wake up and do 2 hours or something instead of just one. Do 2 hours on a Saturday, and I think you'll find that if you spend a little bit of time diving in, you will come out of the other end so much better for it. So yeah, just excited to be starting that tomorrow. Some more information about that tomorrow. And let's scroll down a little bit. Let's get a smaller streamer tonight. UE4, that's Unreal Engine. There's so many game devs on here. Programming stream, maybe. Also, if you all ever come across anyone who you like, let me know. Text clustering with Python, that sounds interesting as well. Flutter, JetBrains Academy, that's Portuguese. I'm trying to keep it English. The Peach is still on. All right, peace, Just Machine. Have a good night as well. Control overlays, enhance, sports scores bot. Oh, getting back up. This is always so hard. Home Grove. I don't know what that is. Let's head over. Live coding work. Phil Nash. Hello, Phil Nash. Working in TypeScript on Twilio Run. We'll start 100 Days of Code tomorrow. We'll head over to Phil_Nash. So I don't even think I can raid from here. I think I can only raid from here. Appreciate it, Sean. See ya. Have a good night. Appreciate you. Raid. Already forgot that fast who I was going to. Phil Nash. Phil_Nash. Say hello. No, I think it really makes people have sent me, you know, really nice messages just saying, hey, really appreciate the raid. It really makes people's nights. So it's just say hello. Just spend, you know, a couple minutes there, ask a couple questions, and if you like them, stick around. Give them a follow. Cool. We're heading over in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everyone have a great night. Peace. Oh, I was 1 second off. Peace.